over youth and exuberance, is what I like to say. This is like your old man in the backyard or in the front yard when your old man's in his upper 40s taking on the young Thundercat son who's way more athletic, way more agile, but that experience and knowledge triumphs over that excitement and enthusiasm and exuberance, because that's what happened to me until like I was a junior in high school. But that's what occurred last night. That's what occurred last night.
Yep.
What occurred was the old guard, bunch of 22 and 23-year-olds, got out of the gate very, very quickly when it comes to methodical ball, right? Methodical pace, that type of thing. And then Kentucky realized, man, these are some old, slow dudes. Let's get out and go. And what did they do? They got out and ran. They were more athletic. They looked like a young Travis Kelce instead of an old Travis Kelce, right? They looked like a young LeBron James or a young Michael Jordan, and not the 98 Michael Jordan who would just back you down, turn around, shoot a jumper in your face instead of working and doing all this stuff. Like, it was the quintessential old man versus young man game. And then they got hot, right? I'm not going to lie to you. Hey, Friday, on second thought, maybe Kentucky can shoot the three, okay?
That is exactly what I thought about when Rob Dillingham hit 3 threes in a row. I thought, Jake told me this team couldn't shoot.
Well,
and suddenly...
Hey, they couldn't when it mattered.
That's true. That is true.
Because that is what occurred. They got going, and what matters more for a young team? Momentum. They got it moving. They were feeling good. You got what's his face? I don't know if it was it Reeves, who's trying to headbutt DeJuan Harris, but Harris is like, look, I'm 28 years old. I'm too old for this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He went full lethal weapon, and I'm too old for this. You know what? And then things started to unravel a little bit. KU started to get the ball inside. KU hit some threes. When I say KU, I should say DeJuan Harris.
Let's repeat. DeJuan Harris.
4 for 4 from deep, baby.
He was 5 for 5 before he had to chuck one at the end of the shot clock.
Yeah. So I thought he only made 4, but he made 5.
5.
But that was the biggest difference in this game is Kentucky was hitting threes. They're up 14. They're feeling good. But KU started to do what an old team does. Not panic, not worry, get the ball inside, get a shot. Kentucky gonna miss some shots. Old Bill Self, what does he say? Water finds its level, right? It sure found its level with about 8 minutes to go in the game. They start missing some threes. KU starts going down. They hit some threes. And so much of today's game is hitting threes. Look, if you make threes, you're going to win. If you don't make threes, there's a real good chance you're going to lose, especially a game in the 80s. If you don't make threes and the game is in the 80s, you ain't going to keep up. And that's what KU was doing until Harris hits back-to-back threes and then a runner. All of a sudden, the game's tied. But then what happens with youthfulness, exuberance, and, inexperience? You start to get a little tight. And those threes that were flowing early on, they come off the hand a little bit differently when it's a tight game. And at the end of the game, that's what started occurring. KU started playing better. KU got the rebounds. And then once KU got up, once KU took the lead out, they're not going to lose this game. They're not. And if KU were somehow to end up losing the game, it would be because of one simple reason. KU did not shoot the three well. At one point, they were 4 of 15. You're not going to win games going 4 of 15 when shooting three. That was when I think Kentucky had an 8-point lead or so. You're not going to win a game when the opposing team makes 12 threes and you make 4. You're not going to win those games, especially if the other team is shooting that well. And at the end of the game, man, is Kentucky young, because they went full Javon Carter against Gonzaga. Brendan, what should you never do?
Never go full Javon Carter against Gonzaga.
I mean, that was your shot.
Atrocious.
The Shepherd.
That's freshman, though, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's where, at the end of the game, when I was taking on my old man and we're in basketball, in high school, or when I was like an 8th grader. Now, Graham, my dad is 6'6", a lot bigger than me. I didn't grow till a little bit later. I had him one time. I had him down. We go to 11. I had him down 10-7. And I got so excited, so anxious. What do? You say to yourself, I just got to make one. So you take some bad shots. And that's what Kentucky did. They took some bad shots, forced it up, and KU ended up winning the game. Dwan Harris was incredible. Hunter Dickinson might have had one of the best big men games that I've ever seen. Now, granted, he should, because they didn't have anybody over 6'7", and he towered over them. He really did. I don't care, though. You still got to put the damn ball in the hoop. You still got to make shots. You still got to rebound. I don't care.
KU has played plenty of other teams that had a center smaller than their center. It's still been since 2003. And since one of the best players in the history of the program, Nick Collison, in 2003, that someone had a 2020 game for KU.
That was against Texas.
Yeah. Pretty good game. Yeah. That's a famous one.
And so you had Dwan Harris, who had a career high. Hunter Dickinson had the best big man game since Nick Collison 20 years ago. And then Kevin McCullough had the quietest triple-double that I've ever seen.
Did you see how he got his last rebound?
Yes. That's called basketball karma.
That is called Hunter, get out of my way.
Basketball karma.
They both went up for it.
Basketball karma.
And nah, man.
And you're ready for this? McCullough at times was not good yesterday.
No, I thought he started probably from about 15 minutes to 5 minutes in the first half. He was really good. He was aggressive. Then the final 5 minutes of the first half, it got really sloppy, and he was no exception. I mean, his defense was great. I thought Harris played incredible defense throughout the game, by the way. KJ, too. We haven't gotten to KJ Adams, who I thought was phenomenal. But, yeah, I mean, it wasn't McCullough's best day, but I actually thought, as annoying as Jay Billis was during the broadcasting, God, he was bad. I thought he made a really good point, though. Not the point where he kept saying, oh, it looks like Jalen Wilson last year. He keeps looking like Jalen Wilson last year because they're not the same kind of player. But the fact that he said he's just so well-rounded. Like, he wasn't asked to do everything last year, but he's a good rebounder. Self has talked about that. He's a really good rebounder for a guy his size, for someone who plays that position. He can score, and his three-point stroke has gotten a little bit better. And there's a reason that right now he's your number 2 point guard. Your second option as a ball handler is Kevin McCullough, and that's because he can facilitate. He can move the ball. I don't think he's going to get 10 assists again this season, but he is capable and confident moving the ball. He does every one of those things well, and then he's sensational on the defensive end. And yeah, you end up with a game where he gets 12, 10, 10, and you think, how? Really?
Yeah.
He did? It's only the second time that's happened for a Bill Self player. That's crazy, at least at KU. I don't know about his Illinois days.
I know Withy had a triple-double.
That would have been it.
No. It was Aldrich.
Aldrich, yeah.
Aldrich.
Yeah. Aldrich had it.
In the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I believe so. Against North Carolina, right?
No. Was it North Dakota State?
I'm about to find out for you.
I thought it was in the NCAA tournament. No, it was second round NCAA tournament.
Second round, you are correct.
They beat North Dakota State, and then he had it the next game.
He had a triple-double in a game with 60 points as the winning score.
Who was the team?
Dayton. KU beat Dayton 60-43 in an NCAA tournament game, and Cole Aldrich had a triple-double.
That's what had to occur for KU to win. And KU's going to be really good.
Yeah.
Their defense is going to be good.
It'll be better than it was last night.
Dickinson is not going to do that every single game because there are decent big men in the Big 12. But I would expect, I expect 18-10 from Hunter Dickinson every single game. I mean, he was stupid efficient in the game, to be honest with you. I wouldn't expect Harris to go, 4 of 4 from the 3-point line every single game. But, Adams was his simple self. He was the perfect role player. I mean, you've got your two scorers in Dickinson and McCullough, and then you've got your role players in Harris and Adams, and they did exactly what they needed to do. If you're going to nitpick with KU, they don't right now have a scoring threat off the bench. They don't. You hope, to me, the guy that can do it is Furphy.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy.
Yep.
I think Parker Brown can be a serviceable 10 to 12 minute backup for Dickinson. Now, Dickinson played 37 minutes. He can't do that the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
His minutes need to be around 30 to 31.
Yeah.
Okay. Give Brown the other
10,
12 minutes. If Parker Brown is playing 12 minutes and he gets you 2 rebounds, 5 points, perfect. That's what you want. But you got to have somebody else who can be a viable option, because right now, Furphy ain't it, Timberlake ain't it, and as Bill Self, and the one thing that's nice about social media, one of the very few things that's nice about social media, is there are cameras everywhere, and the one image of Bill Self, and this is the reason why you and I and everybody always wonders why Self doesn't play younger guys early on in the year.
Mm-hmm.
And we always say because he wants to win too bad. Well, winning this game doesn't mean anything if the best 8 players are not ready to play come March.
Sure.
That was the whole thing about, you need to play a young Wayne Selden more. You need to play a younger, whoever.
Embiid, same year.
Instead, he would play Jamari Traylor, who's not going to screw up, but the upside wasn't there. You saw why yesterday.
Because
it was Elmarco Jackson.
Can't trust him.
He did. He says, "What are you doing?" And then he turns around to his bench because he's upset, and he walks kind of back to his seat, and he goes, "I just can't trust him." And there are 2 words that Bill Self cares more about than anything in the world. It is soft, and it is trust. He hates soft. Like, you could call him any negative word, swear word, anything about his mama, doesn't matter. And it's going to not even affect Bill Self. But if you say to Bill Self, you're soft, or your team is soft, or,
don't bother him.
He ain't going to go to bed. He ain't going to go to bed. And that is what I wonder about for KU. Right now, Elmarco Jackson is a freshman, and he looks like a freshman.
And he's also a freshman who's barely played basketball. He's played basketball, organized basketball, for 4 years.
And that's why I think Furphy can be that guy.
I agree with you.
One, Furphy ain't little, okay? This dude is 6'9", okay? But he moves a lot better than 6'9". If he can play like he did against Manhattan and against Directional U.
North Carolina Central.
Directional U, exactly. Against the Kentuckys, the Houstons, the Baylors, the Texas, you know what I mean? Like that's a huge deal. But it's a great win. That will put KU in a great spot because Kentucky's going to get better, folks.
Oh, yeah. That Kentucky team is going to be really good.
Yeah.
Really, really good. I think for me, I wouldn't even say it's nitpicking, honestly. I mean, I think there is a very obvious problem at the 2 spot, and that affects everybody else too, because you've got Now, DeJuan Harris, who has to be more of a scorer, and Bill Self has talked about this before. How many times did we hear it last year that we tell Juan day after day after day after day, you got to be more aggressive, got to be more aggressive, got to be more aggressive. And he was awesome. And you don't see him get pissed off very much.
He got headbutted, man.
And Antonio Reeves unlocked a little something in DeJuan Harris I don't think we've seen more than once or twice in his whole career, and it's been a long career up to this point. And it was awesome. He was absolutely fantastic from that point forward. But he's got to score a little bit more. And if you're asking him to do even more offensively, that potentially is going to mean you lose 1 or 2% of what he's going to do for you defensively. He's expending more energy on the other end of the floor. And when you've got to play him 35 plus minutes, that can really wear you down over the course of a season. So, and it puts more pressure. Dickinson's got to score a ton. McCullough's got to score a ton. You got to play KJ a bunch. It was unfortunate the way he fouled out last night, although they still won. The 2 spot is the concern, and it's that rotation of Elmarko Jackson, Johnny Furphy, and Nick Timberlake. Timberlake, I think, is not an unfortunate case, but he's an old player who is used to being the guy. Get Timberlake the ball, let him chuck. He shot 41% from 3 at Towson, and he shot a lot, like all the time. And he's going from being the guy and a chucker at a mid-major, low-major program to now being the bench energy, instant offense. Oh, by the way, you do actually have to play defense too, guy. And it's going to take some time because it's a completely different role than he's played for 5 years of college basketball up to this point. Jackson's barely played basketball in his life. He's 18 or 19 years old. He's played basketball for 4 years. Most recruits are at this age, like they're playing competitive basketball at 4 years old at this point. Like he's so new to the game. His athleticism is great. I think there's a lot of potential there, but it's going to take him probably a full year to realize what he, was projected to be as a freshman.
He got a lot of AAU in him.
No, he does. Yes. Agreed. And then you've got Furphy, who I think can be the best of the group, but he's probably still not quite 100%. As Self said, he was concerned about the fact that he essentially missed 3 weeks of practice and camp, and it's still fast for him. Like the NBA Academy and Kansas versus Kentucky college basketball, there's a gap there. There is a little bit different. So I think Furphy is going to be the best of the group. I think he's probably your 6th man this year. I think KU's going to stick with Elmarko because I think the defensive potential is higher with him, and I think he's got a nose for it. It's just got to get some of the timing and stuff down. I think Furphy will be the best of the group. They're going to have to figure it out, though, because the schedule is not easy between now and the start of the Big 12. And then we know how difficult it is in the Big 12.
The Maui Classic could be interesting because they could end up playing, Purdue, Gonzaga. Who else is in there?
Oh, it's a crazy schedule this year.
Purdue, Gonzaga are the 2 cream of the crop teams.
So KU they
play a Chaminade.
Yeah, they play the Silver Swords. Shout out to Chaminade.
What if Chaminade does what they did back in 1970 and beat Ralph Sampson and the number 1 ranked Virginia Cavaliers?
That was 1980.
That was 70.
82.
When Sampson lost to...
Yeah, 1982.
They lost. They beat Virginia. It's the greatest upset in college basketball.
Yeah, yes, correct.
Anywho, they take, and then
so they'll play the winner of UCLA Marquette.
Yeah, Marquette's really good. Tyler Kolek, really good.
Yeah, Tyler Kolek on a bad ankle put up 20-plus last night against a ranked team.
And then you have Gonzaga.
Tennessee, Syracuse, Purdue, and Gonzaga.
Yeah, Purdue is the other team. Yeah. That was a fun basketball game.
It was a really fun game.
That was a fun game yesterday. That's why they need to keep it where it's at.
I agree.
That was a fun game. It was a fun game.
Man, I want another round of Edie Dickinson. Those 2 battled for a few years in the Big Ten. I want to see another round of that. With KU's offense against Edie. Oh, yeah. Gotta have that.
I'd be on board with it.
I think they're going to get to the end of that tournament, by the way.
Okay.
That'll be fun. But no, good early showing, but still clearly some things that need to be worked on.
Yeah, great showing.
Someone other than Harris has to shoot threes.
Yeah, that's wild.
Juan ain't going to shoot 83% from 3 this year. That's just not going to happen.
That'd be awesome if he did.
Yeah.
Coming up next, we'll take a peek at the football side of things for the Sunflower Showdown. What's the latest news coming out of both camps? We'll get to that next. We've got an update on QB Watch. That's right. Today, Kansas offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki said Jason Bean was at the practice today. Quote, he took a lot of reps, end quote. What we learned yesterday from Michael Swain is KU's not going to be put in the same spot that they were in against Texas. We're going to go with the guy who got the reps in practice. Now, I think there's a difference between Bean and Ballard. But he did say, quote, he took a lot of reps, end quote. All right. Brendan, I need you to put your coach speak hat on. You have it?
I got it on.
You got it on. Okay.
It's a Tampa Bay Devil Rays hat, in fact.
Get rid of it. Hey, you ain't got no devils.
This one is.
Get rid of that one. You don't need no devils.
Devil's Digest. Watch out for them devils.
You gotta watch out for them devils. Herm Edwards was the coach.
They employed that guy. Hey.
Incredible. Anywho. Yeah, Devil's Digest. The term reps is a loose term.
Yes, it is.
Normally, I say coaches don't have time to deal with espionage and trickery and trying to fool people. They got bigger fish to fry, believe you me. It's a concussion. I'd be very surprised if he's practicing 3 days later. Most of the time, heck, in the NFL, you can't do anything until Thursday or Friday, right? And in fact, only one time this year has someone got a concussion and played the next game, and that was Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
And he was pretty bad, too, by the way.
Didn't go well.
But college is a little different. He took a lot of reps. There's a part of me that says there's no way that Andy Kotelnicki said that just to screw with what K-State's going to deal with. And here's the reason why. K-State's going to prepare for Bean at quarterback.
Yeah.
And then K-State will also be ready for Ballard at quarterback. And the reason why is, one, it's very easy to prepare for Ballard at quarterback. You get ready for about 45 runs from Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw, and maybe the basic throwing packages. That's not difficult to prepare for. It isn't, because they're going to prepare for the run no matter what.
Yeah, of course.
Because even with being out there, you got to prepare for the run.
Because Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw might be the two best players on the team.
So there's a part of me that's like, okay, Lance Leipold and Andy Kotelnicki are not going to be like, he took a lot of reps. This is going to get him. Because, just to let you know, the K-State coaches will get this info. They're not dumb. Someone will say something, someone will say something, and Kleiman's going to say to his team, we're going to prepare for Jason Bean. So part of me is like, this doesn't really mean a whole lot on the K-State side of it.
Sure.
Okay. K-State's going to prepare for Bean, and if it's Ballard, it's Ballard. I still say if Bean plays and is of sound mind and body, then I would say this is a 60-40 type of game. 60% K-State wins it, 40% KU wins it.
Okay.
And one of the main reasons why is I think K-State's defense is playing very, very well. And K-State plays the 3-3 stack defense, which KU's had some problems with, but K-State's run defense has been very good. It's been pretty darn good.
That's why I said yesterday, the way KU's going to win is if Ballard plays, they're going to have to let him cut loose, because the way you beat K-State's defense is through the air.
And so, like, if you look at one of my favorite websites is cfbstats.com. I don't know if you've ever,
many times
been there. Well, the best part about this is it breaks everything down by conference. You can do it conference. You can do whatever you want, right? And here's the two best teams rushing defense. Texas, number 1 at 90 yards per game. And then number 2, Kansas State at 119 yards per game. They stop the run. Now, Jake Clifton is out, but still K-State stops the run. This is all about whether or not Bean can go. And if this is true, this gives KU a much better puncher's chance. I think if Bean doesn't play and it's Ballard, it's 80-20. You know? Like, that's how drastic. I think it's at least a 20 to 25 point difference in if Bean plays and if Ballard plays. Because what I saw Ballard throwing the football, it ain't gonna get it done. It's not. I need to have Jason Bean out there running and throwing and trying, hit the tight ends and all that kind of stuff. Because Ballard ain't gonna have the full McGill of the offense. That's why this has nothing to do with K-State. It has everything to do with KU. And I hope this is true. And I hope they're not trying to do the whole misdirection, all that kind of stuff. And I don't think Leipold and Kotelnicki are, because I think they ain't got time for that.
No.
So I don't know if he'll play. Reps is a loose term. We'll see. If he does, awesome. If he doesn't, we're being the messenger.
I believe Ballard is going to start this game. I am convinced it is going to be Cole Ballard who gets the call to start the contest. But if Bean is healthy, I would not be surprised to see him at some point get into the game. And I don't think it would just be, essentially what he was doing when Daniels was playing. Mm-hmm. And that's just, okay, he's got 1 or 2 packages and he's almost more of a decoy than anything. If he's healthy enough to go, I assume KU knows that if they need to break glass in case of emergency, they can put Jason Bean back in the game. Because I think personally, and I don't know his health situation, and Leipold wouldn't dive too deeply into it, and that's the right way to handle it.
And we're not going to hear from Leipold, and the person who breaks it will be a national reporter.
So the way I see this is if both are healthy and Ballard took the first team reps for most of the week, you can more easily go from Ballard back to Bean than you can the other direction. And I know that's how it went last week, but that was an injury problem. That's different than preparing for if we need to break glass in case of emergency, our fire extinguisher is Jason Bean. That's a lot harder to do if you go from, wow, dang, we had a whole plan with our normal starter, that's what he's been this year, and now all of a sudden we've got to completely scale back the playbook because we have to put in the walk-on freshman. I think if it's even possible that both would be cleared to play, that's the way I think KU would trend. Because the other side of that, if things go great and the defense has been playing better and they have a great game and they shut down Howard in the K-State offense and KU's offense is doing enough that they are ahead, you don't need to go to Bean and you can stick with Ballard then. So that, again, assuming everyone is healthy, which I don't think you can fairly assume at this point, but in that hypothetical, I think you could more easily go Ballard to Bean than vice versa.
I'm just going to go with what I'm reading.
Sure.
He took a lot of reps. I think he's going to take a lot of reps on today. And then I think he's going to take took a lot of reps today because they practiced in the morning. He'll take a lot of reps tomorrow. I think Jason Bean starts on Saturday.
Okay.
Because if he can go, he's your guy. You got to ride with Jason Bean. And like I said, I have so much credit for Jason Bean. Like, Jason Bean, tip of the cap to you. And in all honesty, the most outstanding player for KU is Devin Neal.
Yes.
The most valuable is Jason Bean.
I would agree with that.
If Jason Bean is not there and Ballard's your backup, this team's not going to a bowl game.
Probably not.
That's why there's a difference. That's where, valuable and most outstanding are two different things.
No, I agree with that.
That's how I view it.
We got a comment from Tyler in the YouTube comments. And he says, Ballard can run the offense. The kid showed grit and heart, needs some time to prepare. And that's what Michael Swain was saying to us yesterday, is that go back to the Texas game when Bean found out. And this is for a guy who has been with the program for multiple years, who's been a part-time starter for the program for multiple years. He got thrown in quite literally at the last minute, and the offense, aside from a couple big plays, not in a good place in that game. And Texas, different than Kansas State. I understand different situations, road, home, one team versus the other. I get that. But yeah, I agree. I think you have more faith in Ballard giving him a week of being the number one guy. But I think it's also fair to say a fifth-year senior who's played a lot of college football is probably more prepared for, just naturally more prepared for a game like this than Ballard would be. And I hope if Ballard plays, he goes nuts. I hope he's awesome.
In regards to the message, grit and toughness and fight, you can beat teams like Texas Tech and Houston or, BYU. Like, I can see that. You ain't beating teams like K-State and Texas with grit and toughness. You need to make plays.
You need a little bit more than that.
You got to do a little bit more than that. If that's the case, then every underdog kid, like, there's a reason why 5-star guys are 5-star guys, like as much grit and toughness that Lawrence Arnold has, and that he ain't Luther Burden.
Well, and
you know what I mean?
What's the Bill Self quote that he uses every single year when he's asked about this at the start of the NCAA tournament? It's about how hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. What happens when you run into talent that does work hard? That's pretty much K-State football.
Yeah,
I will say this just real quick because I know we have to get to a break. For the sake of Jason Bean, the person, I hope he can play. I do.
Yes.
Even beyond what's it going to take to win, or does KU have a better chance with one than the other? Jason Bean has been through a lot.
Jason Bean can put himself like in KU lore if he comes out here and balls out and wins.
He was the starter when he transferred in. He got injured and lost the job. He had to come in when Daniels got hurt last year. Was the quarterback when they won to get back to a bowl game last year. Was the quarterback when they beat Oklahoma this year. For his sake, as Jason Bean, the person, I hope he gets to go out there for one final home game because he deserves it.
Yeah, I want him to, because selfishly, I want to see two good teams play each other. So there we go. Coming up next, we'll get to the bottom, which is a dumb story, and I'm mad at you, Big 12, for doing this. But we'll get to tiebreakers. All righty, let's get to some stupid bylaw talk. Are you ready?
We love bylaws, folks.
The only thing worse than bylaw talk is, well, for Brendan, Taylor Swift talk.
Yeah.
True.
I won't dispute.
I'd rather talk Taylor Swift than bylaws. But there's a lot going down right now. And here's what it is.
They're yelling timber. Big 12's got to move. It's got to dance. Heard that the other day. I thought about that time you couldn't believe that was my number one party song.
Anytime I hear the song Timber by Kesha
featuring Pitbull or vice versa. Yeah.
I immediately think of you.
It's a great song. All-time jam. If I have to bump it at some point today.
That's fine. You can do that. So here's the deal. We talked about this on Monday about tiebreakers. And to me, the whole entire point of tiebreakers is to make sure that you do right by everybody. But unfortunately, in this world, people hate change and they go with the black and white law instead of what should be right. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
What the Big 12 tiebreakers were they were worded poorly.
Very poorly.
They were worded like my son, who is 3, would have put them together. Where it talks about if multiple people are tied, then you go to tiebreaker 2 or tiebreaker B or whatever the hell it is. So if you go by how the rule was written in the bylaws, it clearly states head-to-head does not matter in 3-way ties. They needed to be more specific, because if they would have added one specific thing in the original tie-breaking rules, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And there are many people who are shouting at K-State Athletic Director Gene Taylor to raise hell and to sue and to do all that kind of stuff. Which, that's what we do in our era right now, right? We're going to go by, Jake, it's the rules. Jake, it's the rules. We got to follow the rules. Yep. Just like Derby and Washburn Rural last year in the sub-state game.
Got to bring up the bad memories again.
Well, this is a perfect example.
No, I know.
Did it affect the game? No, it didn't.
No.
Did it break the letter of the law? Yes, it did. Is it stupid? Yes. What's happening now is Barry Trammell, friend of the show, put out there and said that the Big 12 is going to change, and K-State fans, look, K-State fans, I know where you're coming from. I understand it.
Uh-huh.
What Barry Trammell said was that the Big 12 is going to clarify.
Yeah.
Well, to me, clarify and change are two different things. Clarify means you're going to explain it a little bit more, so that way you can tell someone what's going to happen easier, right? Instead of using the legalese term, you're going to use, layman's terms, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's happening right now between the tiebreakers. And it sounds like what's going to happen is they are going to change the tie-breaking rule. Now, all of this stuff is reported from not the Big 12, right? The Big 12 has not said anything.
Mm-hmm.
To me, and this is where I talk about what's right, okay? And this is what being a benefit, not being a K-State fan, despite several people who email me, calling me a die-in-the-wool K-Stater. Also, there are people out there who call me an absolute K-State hater. Same thing, especially, boy, y'all angry when I said Texas was going to beat K-State. Ooh, boy. Same thing for KU. I'm not a KU fan.
We know.
I'm very clearly, everybody knows my allegiance. I want K-State to win. I want KU to win. I don't ever want Emporia or Pitt to win. If you look at the results, and results matter, okay? They matter. Otherwise, why are we playing it? If Alabama and Texas are the only two teams with one loss, and there are three teams that are undefeated, those three teams are in. If it's Washington, Michigan, and, Florida State, and it's Alabama and Texas. Alabama, sorry, Texas beat you. You should have beat them. That's just the way I view things. Games matter. Otherwise, why are we even doing this? Just put the four best teams who have the most five-star guys. But don't worry about games, okay? Or if that's the case, put Ohio State there because Ohio State's got the best loss. They lost to Michigan. Or flip it. Michigan's got the best loss. Put Michigan in there, okay? Oklahoma State played both Oklahoma and K-State. They beat them both. I don't want the technicality that Oklahoma and K-State didn't play. Well, Jake, K-State, it wouldn't matter if K-State beat Oklahoma. Let's say K-State beat Oklahoma, Brandon. Let's say that they played this year because they probably would have played and K-State probably would have won because Chris Kleiman owns the Sooners. It's in there. I think it's in Wikipedia. Okay. Owner, Chris Kleiman. Okay, let's take a look at that then. Oh, they're all tied. Okay, great. Let's see. Let's do the tiebreaker. Well, K-State's 1-1. Oklahoma's 0-2. Oh, Oklahoma State's 2-0. Doesn't matter. If you're tied with two teams, any rational person would say, if there are three teams tied, okay, did one of the teams beat the other two? Yes, Oklahoma State goes. You ready for this? And this is, well, Jake, these were the rules written. I understand the rules are written. I get it. I know. Changing the rules mid-season, it looks bad. It's terrible. The Big 12, you look like you got egg on your face. And as far as I'm concerned, the Big 12 has done one thing right. And granted, that's the most important thing that they got right. Would I rather have the Big 12 get right and be aggressive and go out and get BYU and Cincinnati and UCF and Houston and Arizona State and Colorado and Utah? Like, that was great. They saved the Big 12. Brett Yormark has saved the Big 12. Love it. That's all that matters. They got a great TV deal, and it's going to get better. Love it. I'm excited for Arizona KU basketball. I'm excited for going down to Tempe. All right, love it. But man, they butchered so many other stuff. Like this is clerical, comical stuff here that you couldn't figure out the tiebreaker rule. But in the grand scheme of it, Oklahoma State, I don't care if you rewrite the rules or not, they deserve to be in the title game if they are tied with Oklahoma or K-State.
No, I agree with that. That is how logically it should be done. The problem is that you didn't make that logic clear beforehand. That is the problem. And I don't feel sympathy for Kansas State in the sense that, like, oh, we're being screwed. Well, you screwed yourself by losing to Oklahoma State. When Oklahoma State was at its worst this year, they beat you at their place on a Friday night.
Yep.
Like, that's, you want to avoid all this, you go win in that game. And that changes the whole calculus here. But I do feel bad in the sense that you thought one thing because whoever typed up these rules in the Big 12 handbook botched it and got the wording all messed up.
Correct.
It read originally like you put it through Google Translate and then translated it back to English. Like, all right, let's type in a rule. We're going to translate to Spanish, translate that to French, and then translate the French back to English. That's what it read like. It was a mess. But it is like that's what the rule is. So I can understand the frustration with the Big 12 offices here more than anything else. And that does suck. That's unfortunate. But you got to the right answer. There's a meme out there of somebody, it's like a piece of homework, and the teacher's note on it says, like, something to the effect of, you got all of the work wrong, but still found the right answer. That's essentially where we are with the Big 12. Like, I don't know what. This is not how you factor. This is not how the quadratic formula works at all, but somehow you got to the right place.
And in this,
do not ask me for the quadratic formula. I don't remember it.
Well, isn't that?
I do know how to factor, though.
Isn't that a? I just got a headache. Anyways, K-State fans are going to complain, and I get it. Anything to put your team in the title game,
right?
What would help? Score a touchdown on 1st and goal from the 6.
Yeah, win the games.
You know, like that. That's then. But games matter.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what matters. So, yes, did the work get all wrong? Correct. If they're going to get it right in the end result, that's what I care about. Coming up, we will get to a little bit what Trent McDuffie had to say about the Eagles and the Chiefs and the defense this year. 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday. No Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid on Wednesday. Today, the reason why, the Chiefs play Monday Night Football.
Oh, I thought the reason was they hate us.
Didn't feel like talking. Hi, guys. It's Dan. I'm back.
Dan Lucero back with us. Brandon Dworzinski, Jake LeBon as well. I'm Jake LeBon. He's Brandon Dworzinski.
I am. The rumors are true.
The rumors are true.
Not beating those allegations.
I am and remain.
We will get your takes. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section on our YouTube stream. Go to youtube.com. Type in 580 Sports Talk. Also, you can go to our text line. Really easy.
785-272-9429.
We should be saved in your phone book.
Yeah.
One, because then you can win tickets.
Is it saved in your phone book? Your contacts on your phone?
I actually have like 3 numbers for the station in my phone.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
4.
Oh.
I have 4.
Why?
Well, I've got... Well, one of them doesn't work anymore.
Oh.
So I've got... No, I do. I had 5, and now I got 4.
Okay.
Because we don't have a phone in the control room anymore. That one's gone.
Yeah.
But then I've got 4 other numbers.
Okay. Just in case you need to call in from the other room. Rooms.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I still have the control room number saved.
Yeah.
We don't have that number.
No.
Huh.
Yeah, there you go. So, but you can give us a shout on the text line, 785-272-9429. We do have one gotta go coming up. So we'll hear good old
Dr. Phil?
Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
Give me $200. It's about right, Dr. Phil. So that'll be coming up today. We're going to hear from Cooper Beebe coming up at the bottom of the hour about the Sunflower Showdown. We're going to talk K-State. That's right. But we're going to go to the Chiefs real quick, and we're going to talk about Trent McDuffie. We asked Ken Swanson, who's his MVP for the first half of the year, on the defensive side. He said Trent McDuffie. Dan, you said Trent McDuffie for your Chiefs defensive MVP. I had Trent McDuffie number 2. You had Chris Jones number 1, which I did as well. You had Trent McDuffie number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I had McDuffie number 2. Dan had McDuffie number 1. Well, Trent McDuffie appeared on the Adam Schefter podcast. And
have you ever listened to the Adam Schefter podcast?
No.
It's interesting.
Don't you feel like you get enough Adam Schefter in your life without like subscribing on Spotify or
Correct.
Apple or wherever you get your podcast to listen to more Adam Schefter?
I don't know how Schefter and Rappaport have a life. Woj. I don't know how they do it.
Well, we know that like Sham Charania definitively does not have a life. Like the scoops guys, where that's your whole job is to be the scoop guy for an entire professional league. Yeah, they're not much of a life there.
Like, I just don't know how, like, do they go home and just kick it? No, they don't. Like, I can't fathom that. Anyways, I'm with you. He talks like he's on TV too.
Yeah, I don't know why you would listen like somebody who's on TV all the time like that. Like I don't need more. I don't find Schefter to be such a compelling personality that I need more of him in my life.
No. So
remember when he wrote a book about his wife's dead first husband?
Yeah, that was a thing.
I did not read that.
Me either.
Do you read that?
No.
I know it exists.
It's out there. I mean, I'm sure the intentions were very like. I don't think
I
Adam
heard
Schefter's
it was like helped a lot of people though.
Yeah, I'm sure the intentions were very good. I think Schefter, by all accounts, is a decent man from everything I've ever heard. He worked in the Denver market for a long time, and nobody really has a bad thing to say about him in that market. But yeah, that was
so. Just to let everybody know, Adam Schefter married a woman whose husband died in the Twin Towers on 9/11.
Yeah, he's a firefighter, I believe.
So, yeah.
No, he was a hedge fund guy.
Oh, he was. I thought he was.
He wasn't a first
hero.
responder. He was a hedge fund guy.
All right, so I know
he-
less about it than you guys
He
do,
was
apparently.
in the building. Anyways, Trent McDuffie on the Adam Schefter podcast. And this is a few things that he mentions. One, he brought up the Super Bowl. And what people think about the Super Bowl is Mahomes and the offense and, the play calling, the play designs, Tony, it was all offense, right? And he says, one big thing that Coach Spags said this morning was he hinted back to last year's Super Bowl and goes, I don't know about you guys, but they put up 35 on us. I know this year's defense, we're like none of that. We're not trying to give up points. So there's definitely that stigma. Even though we won, that wasn't our best defense. We have something to prove. And that was one of the few times that McDuffie gave up a touchdown last year. He gave up a touchdown to A.J. Brown in the South end zone. Guy kind of turned around, jumped too early, and
looked like he might have lost his footing, which,
Yeah.
as many will recall, was a recurring theme that night.
And so that's one thing about this game coming up on Monday. And then he also was asked about, when did you know this defense was going to be different? Because this defense is different. This defense is a very good defense, and the secondary is very good. And he said this, we've been trying to change the narrative. Yes, we've got Pat, we have Travis. Yes, we got Andy Reid, but this defense, I said it in OTAs, and I said it in training camp. This defense is just different this year. Whatever we did over the past offseason to come together when guys went away and came back, I think it's a mentality thing that is the biggest difference. You know the old saying, look good, feel good, play good. The most dangerous basketball player in the world is a confident three-point shooter. When they feel like when they let it go and it's good, that's as scary as it gets on the basketball court.
Like old Rob Dillingham last night in those 2 minutes.
Yeah. Larry Bird walking into the locker room of the three-point shootout, staring at grown men who are the best at what they do, dead on, looking them in the eye and saying, who's finishing second? There ain't nothing scarier than that. And that, to me, is, I can believe that 100%. You can put together, hey, why is this defense better? Well, George Karlaftis got better. Yes. Chris Jones is still there. Yes. Omenahu is an increase. Yes. L'Jarius Sneed playing the best football of his career. Yes. Trent McDuffie, been around the block now. Yes. Brian Cook might be better than Juan Thornhill. Sweet. Justin Reed, another year in the system. Terrific. But when you put that together and when you say to yourself, I'm him, I think that's how the youth say now, I'm him. That is a huge, huge deal. When you've got especially at the cornerback and the defensive back position. I think that is so big. And he goes on to continue to say it's almost like it's a selfless in a sense where everybody wants to be so great at what they do that the standard is for 4 quarters, you are going to be relentless. You got guys say you might have coverage breakdowns and you might, get a long wall, but you better strap it up the next play. You might play one with us, but we're here for 4 quarters. That's what this Chiefs defense is. And that's why I said after the game against, who was it? It was 3 weeks ago. It was when the Chiefs were leading. It wasn't the Dolphins game. It was the Vikings game. Chiefs down by 7, right? They scored. Will the defense get a stop, right? No, the defense is getting the stop. And I think a part of the reason why is now because the way that this defense, 1, their mentality, 2, the level of play, and you put it all together and you got a little bit of a swagger. You got a little bit of a, short memory too. Hey, you might give up a coverage breakdown, but hey, the very next play, you're going to find a way to get it done. Like that to me is a huge difference. Just the way that this team is. Yes, they are better on paper. Yes, they understand Spags' system. They've got better players, just sheer better players this year than last year. But now you add into the mix where no, we're not bend but don't break anymore. That was 2019, 2020, 2021. We're not bend but don't break anymore. And this is coming from Trent McDuffie, a second-year guy who doesn't have an interception, doesn't have a sack. Technically, he does, honestly, he probably has the single biggest play on defense this year. But most people don't care about forced fumbles. Like, if you think about it, the biggest play this year on defense was by Trent McDuffie. The fumble caused with Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the biggest play on defense this year. But nobody looks at forced fumbles. Like, he didn't score the touchdown.
I think you start looking at him when it's 4.5 a season. I think you start to pay a little more attention to, hey, this might be a defined skill this player has.
Like Peanut Tillman,
the peanut punch. Yeah.
But like, if you think about it, what's the most important play on the year for the Kansas City Chiefs this year? Like, honestly, you want the most important offensive play this year is for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Travis Kelce's touchdown in week 2.
Nope.
Justin Watson's deep ball reception on
Against
that
the Vikings?
third down
Yeah.
against the Vikings.
Yeah, I think the most important offensive possession this year is Kadarius Toney letting a ball go through his hands that resulted in a touchdown.
Probably. Yeah.
Like, in a negative way.
But it's the most influential, most important. Like, they lost that game because of that. They don't do that. The Chiefs win. But on defense, that's one of the biggest plays in Chiefs regular season history in the last in this golden era of Chiefs football.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you think of it, what's been some of the most important and regular season, not postseason. Postseason, heck, a 3rd and 5 is a bigger deal than what anything in the pre or in the regular season. But like that play that McDuffie made, everybody thinks of one. It's not a sack. It wasn't against the quarterback. It wasn't an interception. And if anything, you want to know what people talk about more of is Edwards' this lateral to Cook. They don't talk about the play that McDuffie made. Like I do think there's a little bit, a different feel. Much like there's a different feel around KU football right now than there was 2 years ago. There's a different feel around it. And I think there's a different feel around this Chiefs defense. And I think Trent McDuffie puts it together very, very well about just the mentality of what this defense is all about this year.
I'm trying to find the tweet and I cannot find it, but some NFL reporter, it might have been Field Yates, I feel like that's right, tweeted about, it was after the Dolphins game. And he said, it's something about, he couldn't help but think about at the end of the Super Bowl last year, whoever the reporter was overheard a couple of the Chiefs' young defensive players in the locker room talking about, man, we just won the Super Bowl and we didn't really understand what we were supposed to be doing on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait until we know what we're supposed to be doing, where we're supposed to be. Just wait till we have a better grasp of the scheme. It's almost like when Patrick Mahomes said that after his first season, after his first Super Bowl, like, I'm just kind of winging it right now. Like I'm only just now starting to really understand how to play. And obviously we've seen Mahomes go to even higher levels since those first couple of seasons as the quarterback. That to me is a very revealing anecdote about what you're asked to do in a Steve Spagnuolo scheme. It can be very, especially as a defensive back. And who was it I was watching on TV that said there's 2 things you got to do as a defensive back. 2 things you have to do well as a defensive back in the Steve Spagnuolo system: tackle and everything else. And I think that having most of these guys come into the league together, go through a full year together, now be together in year 2. Think of how many guys that is on the secondary, where it's Cook, year 2, McDuffie, obviously, year 2, Watson, year 2, Joshua Williams, year 2. And even though it's not year 2 in the league, it's year 2 in the scheme for Justin Reed. So now all of them have the benefit of a full year together and the understanding of what it is they're being asked to do in that defense. I don't think it's an accident that it looks cleaner, that you have fewer busts, that you have fewer communication issues, that guys are where they're supposed to be, that guys feel the freedom to go down and try to make plays. You know what helps you strip the ball out? If you know there's somebody who's going to clean up the play behind you if you don't make the tackle. You can go for the ball. You can take that chance if you trust the guy coming in behind you to wrap up and finish the play if for whatever reason you can. Or recover that fumble if that's what you're trying to do is go for the football. So I think that is, in this defense, a big part of the reason why it has been so successful. There's another year of understanding, and there's another year of trust built, particularly in that secondary.
Coming up next, we've got our One Gotta Go, and then we're going to hear from Cooper Beebe, big offensive lineman.
The Beebs.
Do you think he's going to get Ring of Honor in K-State? There has been an offensive lineman make Ring of Honor.
Yeah, you've got
remember, I think about that a lot, more than I should. You know, it's like a lot. Every man thinks about the Roman Empire at least once every week.
No, I think about retired numbers for my favorite teams. Yes, that is. Yes.
So I do wonder, like the reason he came back, he said he wanted to play with his brother. He wanted another go of it. And he said, I want to get myself in the Ring of Honor.
If he's a first-team All-American, and I think he's got a real chance to be a first-team All-American at guard, then I don't see why he wouldn't be.
Has K-State ever had a first-team All-American offensive lineman?
I can find that for you by the end of the commercial break.
I know they've had a lot of, like, all Big 12 offensive linemen.
Well, of course.
But have they had a first-team All-American? We'll get to that. We got One Gotta Go. We'll get to all that coming up next. Alrighty, one got to go here on 580 Sports Talk, and I had a hard time whittling it down to 3 or to 4, but I did.
Okay,
I did. Okay, so one got to go. Hunter Dickinson.
Okay,
Jeff Withey. Now let me rephrase this. This is KU career. Okay. KU career. One got to go. All right. Jeff Withey, Hunter Dickinson, Joel Embiid, Cole Aldridge. See, I didn't include Nick Collison in there because that one's too easy. I didn't include Danny Manning because that's too easy. But Jeff Withey, Joel Embiid, Cole Aldridge, or Hunter Dickinson.
Well, Dickinson's played 3 games.
I know, but
what a game.
That game last night. And some of this might be, what you think is going to happen in the future, too.
Yeah.
Withey was my least favorite of the 4, for whatever that's worth.
Man, I love Jeff Withey.
Yeah. You either love Withey or you
Withey fan.
Withey.
Yeah, I was a big Withey guy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That is so perfect.
I remember watching, because I was in high school during Withey's tenure, and I remember thinking, oh, man, I love this dude.
And
my buddies were like, oh, why?
Another fun one, and the reason why is, like Aldrich and Withey are kind of the same, 4-year guys, that type of deal. And then you got Embiid and Dickinson are going to be 1-year guys. What are you going with? Did you like? I was smart with how I.
All right, so I think if you're factoring in what you like, projections for the future and what you could get out of these guys, I'm going to go with Embiid. Because I already know what happened there. He got hurt. He didn't play in the tournament. KU's not winning the national title that year, but they're getting to the second weekend if Joel plays, but he got hurt, and that sucks. Whereas this KU team, as long as literally one other player figures out how to play college basketball, they're going to be a national championship contender this year. So I think for that argument, you put in Dickinson. But also, Joel loved KU so much. That's hard to keep does. Yeah, he loves KU.
He reps KU so hard.
I mean, shoot, he told Bill Self, like, I'm coming back. And Self had to tell him, no. Why? Which, like, realistically, do you know how insane that is? Like, your job is predicated on winning as much as possible. And the best chance for KU to win the next year was to have that freak on your team. And you said, don't come back. That, of all the amazing things about Bill Self and his career, that's probably the most amazing, to tell that dude no.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, that's why.
That's also he thought long term and not short term.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
That speaks volumes on
character.
So is one got to go? I got to get rid of one? Or,
yeah, you got to get rid of one.
Was Withey ever All-American? Was he first team All-American?
No, but I think he was an All-American, I think.
Aldridge was consensus second team.
Yes.
All-American. Never lost at Allen Fieldhouse.
Withey was a consensus second-team All-American, one-time first-team All-Big 12, two-time Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year.
It's a good resume.
You're welcome for putting together such a good question, you guys. Thank you very much.
We have a texter ask, where's Sasha Khan?
Sasha. Loved Sasha. He stays. Sasha Khan stays.
Hey, he kept Aldridge off the floor as a freshman.
I don't care who else you take out. Sasha stays.
I didn't include like T-Rob or Sasha or Darnell or Darrell or,
truly beloved team legends. Yeah.
Yeah, Withey got to go. I just didn't like him. I'm sorry.
I get it. Did you know Withey is still playing professionally?
They're probably overseas.
For Hapoel Tel Aviv.
Hapoel
Tel Aviv.
Yeah,
that's where he is right now.
But I was thinking about that big, and Bill Self said Hunter Dickinson, most skilled big man. Yeah. Hey, big men are really good when you go up against 6'7" dudes.
Nice matchup.
Yeah.
All right, I've only got 2. There's 2 options. One's got to go.
Wait a minute. That's not.
I'm willing to hear him out.
Okay.
Appetizers or desserts? One's got to go.
Oh, appetizers. Get out of here.
No more chips and salsa? You go to a Mexican restaurant, no chips and salsa?
That's not an appetizer.
Eat it before a meal.
Yeah.
So
it
we're going
is.
to anything before the meal?
And
yeah.
if you have
apps before the meal, desserts after the meal.
If you have to order it off the appetizer menu.
And I don't know. I keep desserts and order an appetizer as the meal. You know how many times I've gone to Chili's and ordered the triple dipper just for myself?
I get that.
Yeah, the sampler as the meal.
Oh,
and then you get the
that's the move.
Yeah.
Love that move.
You get the Southwestern egg rolls. You get the wings. You get the quesadillas. What else do you have?
They got the honey chipotle chicken crispers. I know you're down on the crispers.
We have a place in
I'm so mad at you, corporate Chili's.
we have a place in my hometown.
Dan, I forgot all about that. I am furious. Brandon, you're only the person in this room. I want to throw my pen at you.
Always the victim here.
Don't be in the
Sliders. We got another one from the 785 from the sliders.
Yeah.
Usually get the
now,
sliders.
I have more. Like, are we just talking like in your meal or like in perpetuity?
Like and with a meal.
Oh yeah, I'm getting rid of appetizers because I'd rather have
an appetizer and a meal than a meal and dessert.
Because how often do you have dessert when you eat?
Dessert's like a special occasion kind of thing, but I'll have an appetizer anytime.
So dessert is a special thing like when you eat at home or just at a restaurant, we're saying here.
Yeah.
In all cases, desserts are for special occasions.
I eat
How
ice cream after dinner like 345 days a year.
How often do you, when you go out to eat and the server tries to upsell you the dessert, hey, save any room for dessert? Well, 99% of the time in my life, the answer to that has been no, I haven't.
Hold on a second.
Because I got like the bang bang shrimp or like cheese curds.
The problem is that I never get an appetizer ever, unless it's the free chips and salsa. So like if I have to pay for the app, like I don't get bloomin' onions. I don't get, like if I do get the app, I get it as the meal.
Okay.
But I don't get appetizers where I go unless it's the free bread or the free, like basically I'm cheap and if it ain't free, I ain't buying it. And so therefore I'm going to leave myself with the dessert.
Abby has teased me many times before because whenever we go out to a restaurant, like not even 10 seconds after we sit down and say, so you want an appetizer tonight? And she's like, I don't know. Maybe I haven't even looked at the menu yet. And then halfway through the meal, not even close to being done, I'll say, so you feeling dessert? Every time. She's like, give me time to finish. I don't know. I always ask.
I want her to smack you one day.
If she was always willing to get a dessert when we went out, I would always get a dessert when we go out. But I don't want to be the only one. I don't want to be the only one getting the double brownie surprise.
Can I just do paid apps? Or does it involve the free?
No, if you get something for free, you get to keep the bread.
Do I get to keep the chips and salsa for free?
If they come built into your meal, yes.
Shout out the texter from the 913.
Okay, then I won't. I'll do the dessert.
We overuse this phrase sometimes, but this texter from the 913 swear he me. Usually I fill up on chips and salsa and take my whole meal home in a box.
Or you do that, or you ready for this?
That's tremendous.
This is the other day at lunch. I went and ate lunch at a Mexican restaurant. I came back here and I told Brandon, I was like, Brandon, I feel like crap because I ate so much chips and salsa.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I ate the entire burrito that I got.
That's true.
And I was like, Brendan, I don't feel good right now. I ate too much. And Brendan looked at me like he had to like roll me down to the hallway.
I have a good friend of mine who we grew up together and we went to KU together. Every single day, we had a class, our radio class, my senior year of high school. Every single day after we ate lunch, he would go lie on the couch in front of the TV in the office and say, Brendan, I don't feel good. And say, why don't you feel good, Mike? And he said, I ate too much. And then he would just give me a rundown of everything he ate from the lunchroom that day. Like, yeah, no duh, you idiot. Of course you don't feel well.
Another one for the 785. I'm with Dan, too full for dessert because I'm thinking apps on the way there. Feel that.
I just don't ever buy apps. So that's why I kind of skirted the rules a little bit there with the whole free.
Depends on the place. Like my wife's favorite restaurant in Lawrence. They've got fried goat cheese as an appetizer. We're getting it every time.
Oh man,
every single time.
Where's that at?
Limestone Pizza.
Okay, we got to go there. Lindsay loves goat cheese.
Do it. It's delicious. Do it.
Big goat cheese fan.
Yeah. I was very new to the goat cheese game before I got married.
Yeah.
Now, oh yeah, you put that on the menu, I'm eating it whole.
You want to know what kids love?
Not goat cheese.
No, just cheese.
Yeah.
Yes. Adults also often do. I too love cheese.
Mac and cheese. I could just throw away right now.
All right, K-State quarterbacks of the last decade. One got to go.
Decade.
Jake Waters, Jesse Ertz, Skylar Thompson, Will Howard.
Jesse Ertz. Audi 5000.
I was hoping you were going to say Alex Delton to make it easy. That's mean. I didn't need to say that.
I thought Ertz was underappreciated. I know they didn't do a ton of winning, and he got banged up, and I thought he was a tough kid. I liked watching
He's definitely
him play.
tough.
That being said,
last guy to beat Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Found that out.
Ertz.
That was going to be our trivia question. Who's the last K-State quarterback to beat Texas? The answer, Jesse Ertz.
So it's Ertz, Waters,
Skylar, and Will Howard. Yeah.
Howard's your all-time passing touchdowns leader. Skylar played for forever, but was so tough and won a lot and went through a lot, similar to Howard in that way. Waters won plenty. Jesse Ertz was the MVP of the 2016 Texas Bowl, and that's kind of it.
Man, Waters didn't deserve the whole, man, we need Daniel Sams. Man, all the people thought Daniel Sams was that guy. How are you feeling right about him now?
Waters, I don't recall him being a great runner. I think that
he could sling it,
Ertz and Thompson and Howard were probably a little bit more threatening with their legs. So I think of them more as classic K-State quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Waters doesn't quite fit that archetype for me. Like when I think of the K-State quarterback, no matter who we're talking about, like they don't have to look the same. Like, don't make me draw you a picture, but like, you know, Michael Bishop and L. Roberson were obviously in a class by themselves as running quarterbacks. Colin Klein, Skylar Thompson, like guys who could be dangerous in the quarterback run game. Like the quarterback run game being a part of the offense. That's what I think about when I think about a Kansas State quarterback. And Jake Waters wasn't that. Great passer. And I thought, like you said, underappreciated probably in his time.
Who was the last Kansas State quarterback to, like, full-time starting quarterback to not go through, like, some sort of controversy with the backup? You mentioned Waters and Sams. Skylar and...
Well, I'm sure it was Klein in his Heisman year.
Would it have been Klein? Yeah.
But the year before that, Klein...
With oh, God, what was his name? Was it something Garth or Graham, or was it was something with a G, wasn't it?
I thought it was Carson Kaufman.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But I remember...
It was an alliterative name, I'm pretty sure.
I remember when Colin Klein played K-State at the Bill, and it was like his sophomore year, junior year, and they played him, and he played the whole game, and they beat Texas, and everybody's like, what is happening? And then that next year, he turned into, Optimus Klein.
Yeah, so that's what... Okay, that would have been 2010.
Yeah.
Klein's sophomore year, Kaufman was a senior. Yes, that's the question. Like, their entire career as a starter, there was no controversy. They were no doubt the guy.
Yeah, it would be Klein, because once he took over for Kaufman, his backup was Samuel Lemur, and he threw 8 passes.
Samuel Lemur. He turned into a DB and ended up making the NFL. Good for him.
Yeah.
Or was that Emmanuel Lemur?
That's Emmanuel Lemur, I'm pretty sure.
No, Samuel Lemur made the NFL.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess they both did.
I don't know if he might have played. Okay, so he played. He only ever made it to the Bucs practice squad. He did spend 2 years with the Tampa Bay Storm. What league was that? Oh, it was the AFL. The Arena League.
I also must apologize. I know we need to get to break, but I have to apologize. That segment participating in Joe Huebner erasure.
That is Kansas kid, Joe Huebner.
Not Conway Springs. Cheney, right?
Yes, maybe. I don't know. He was big, though.
Yeah, 6'5".
Yeah, number 8, I believe.
Yeah. Good memory.
Yeah.
Born in Ohio, but didn't.
Cheney.
He's a Kansas kid. Yeah, for sure.
Long head.
That was a good one. Next time, you got to go with all-time greats. One got to go. Lynn Dickey, Michael Bishop, Colin Klein.
L. Roberson. Or Josh Freeman.
Josh Freeman got to go.
Then that one was too easy.
Yeah, that was too easy. Sometimes this game is easy. Coming up next, we're going to hear from maybe the best offensive lineman in K-State history. We'll go with Cooper Beebe next.
back to 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. Brendan and Dan here with you in studio as we now welcome in the Kansas native, the Piper Pirates product, and the standout offensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats, Cooper Beebe, joining us here on the program as we get ready for the Sunflower Showdown coming up this weekend. Cooper, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the time as always. First things first, I wanted to look back to this past week for you guys. Obviously, 2 weeks ago, that game against Texas didn't go the way you had hoped, but you guys bounced back and just throttled Baylor this past weekend. How good did it feel to bounce back with that kind of performance in all three phases?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It felt good. We obviously lost a heartbreaker at Texas, and, we knew you didn't want to catch the Cats after a loss, and unfortunately Baylor had to play us after a loss, and, we were firing on all cylinders, so, felt good to get back in the win column for sure.
What does it say about this team, Cooper, that after the handful of losses you guys have had this year, you have come out and played some? What does it say about the toughness and the resilience of this year's group?
I just think it just talks about the resolve of this team. There's no doubting about it. It's just, we get back to work. We know how valuable each week is, so we kind of have a quick memory when stuff bad happens, and we move on to the next one and get prepared for the next week. And I think that's why we've been able to flush those losses out and get the wins the previous week.
For you guys along the offensive line, obviously coming into this season, we've already talked about that with you this season, Cooper, but going into this year, so much hype about this group and the NIL deals and the beef and all of that. And then obviously due to some of the injuries early in the year, maybe everybody got off to a little bit of a slow start, but you guys have been just dominating opposing defensive lines over the last couple of weeks and some really good players on opposing defensive lines in the last few games. What has stood out to you about the way that your group has really come together, has developed more chemistry over the course of the year, and frankly, just how you guys have been playing over the last few weeks?
Like you said, we finally got, people to be in their natural positions. And I think that's something that, we didn't have. We didn't have that kind of chemistry early in the season because we had dudes moving around. You didn't know who you were playing next to. You didn't know who was going to play where. But now that we've settled in, we've been able to perfect our craft and, just keep building that chemistry. And, now I feel like we're at a point where, I fully trust everybody on the offensive line. They're going to get their job done no matter what. So, you don't really have to worry, who's out there, who's out there, what they're going to do. I think that's, why we've been able to have success. We just have that fight and, that determination to get things done.
Our guest is Cooper Beebe, the standout offensive guard for the Kansas State Wildcats, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. On Saturday, Cooper, your quarterback, Will Howard, took over as the all-time leader in passing touchdowns in Kansas State football history. Always cool, I'm sure, to see one of your teammates set a record. What did that mean to the offense to see Will set that record, post that mark, and have that moment of success on Saturday?
Yeah, I was so proud of that dude. He's been the guy that's been ridiculed in the past, and I think a lot of people, on the outside noise, kind of wrote him off. But he stayed the course. It didn't matter if they threw in a different guy or what. He continued to come in day after day, put in that work, and it's just an amazing feeling just to know he's proven all those people wrong, and then now he holds the record here at K-State.
There have been in the last few weeks some moments where guys have scored their first career touchdowns. Garrett Oakley, Christian Moore, Seth Porter got his first touchdown. When you have opportunities for guys to get in the end zone for the first time, how special is that to celebrate that as a group?
No, it's awesome. Last game, when Christian Moore scored, man, I ran over there. I was so excited for him. Just to see how hard these dudes work. I don't think a lot of the dudes, or people outside of this building realize how hard some of these guys work, and to be able to finally, get in the end zone. Steph's been working his butt off for 6 years now, and, to finally get his first touchdown is just an amazing feeling. And as a teammate, man, you're just so excited for him just to know everything's been paying off.
You talked earlier in this conversation about being able to rebound from losses and having the mindset as a team of, you don't want to play us after we've lost. And
that's been something that has served you guys well, certainly over the last 2 years. What is it about your group, your coaching staff, that sort of helps you stay focused on yourselves and stay focused on the task at hand? Because it doesn't seem like you let circumstances get you sidetracked. It doesn't seem like you let, as the old cliche goes, one loss beat you twice. What is it that makes your locker room so good at that?
One of our, things going into the season is we treat every week like a 1 week season. We only can control what we can control, and that's how we prepare throughout the week, and that's how we do things. It's when you can't look ahead past the game or anything like that. So when you focus just one week at a time throughout the season, I think that's what we have really led to our success. Nobody's looking in the past or looking into the future. We're just focused on this week and controlling what we can control, and things work out the way they do, and then you move on to the next week. And I think that's one of the reasons we've been able to have success.
Well, this week's one-game season for you, Cooper, is the Sunflower Showdown with the Kansas Jayhawks awaiting you in Lawrence this coming Saturday. Going into this game, obviously your perspective of the matchup, your job is to try and keep the Kansas front seven out of the backfield. How do you evaluate this front seven you're going up against on Saturday?
I think this front seven is a very, very talented group of guys. It's definitely going to be a challenge for sure. They got a lot of speed, a lot of length, a lot of strength. So it's definitely going to be a challenge, but I think we're ready for it.
We're chatting with Cooper Beebe, the standout offensive guard for the Kansas State Wildcats, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk as we get ready for the Sunflower Showdown coming up 6 o'clock Saturday night in Lawrence, a game that, of course, you'll be able to listen to right here on your home in Topeka for Wildcat Athletics, 580 WIBW. This game obviously means a lot to a lot of people in the state, Cooper, and you know that as well as anybody, being a KCK guy. Your father played college football in the state. Your brother is on the K-State roster with you right now. How different is this rivalry? And Kansas State has dominated it for almost a full generation at this point. How different is it, though, when both teams are competitive? Because at the start of your career, and I don't mind saying this because I'm an alumnus of the other school involved here, that program was not very good. I mean, that was a KU team that was down for so long. For them to be on the upswing and for these two teams to be on more equal footing this time around, what is that like for this rivalry and for this matchup?
I think it makes it more enjoyable. I said this on a different interview. I think it's good for the state of Kansas, when you have two really good teams in the Sunflower Showdown. So, everybody wants to go see a competitive matchup, and, I don't think there's going to be a more competitive game this weekend than we've probably seen in, 20 plus years. So, no, it's going to be exciting and it's fun. It's definitely going to be a challenge going down there on the road in Lawrence, but, I'm looking forward to it.
I know we've talked to you about this before. In fact, if I remember correctly, we spoke to you last year this same week going into the matchup in Manhattan. But growing up, being a Kansas guy in Kansas City, where it is obviously disputed territory between KU and K-State, what did this rivalry mean to you and your family growing up?
It was a big one. Of course, being from the state of Kansas, you always watch this game. It didn't matter, where you were or anything. This game was, your whole season growing up, and it's just exciting to be a player in it. I've watched it every year since I've grown up, and now to be a part of it, it's just an amazing experience.
Do you know a lot of the guys on the KU roster being Kansas kids? I know K-State's got far more Kansas guys on its roster than KU does, but do you know a lot of the guys on the other side?
I do not, actually. I know a couple that I played, obviously in high school against, but I only know a few of them, actually.
Does it feel in that locker room, knowing that there are a lot of guys from Kansas or even from the KC Metro in general, because both teams have a couple of guys from the Missouri side of the border as well, does it feel in the locker room, Cooper, like this is a big deal game? Because I think for a lot of fans, rivalries mean this huge big deal, but it's maybe not quite the same in the locker room. Maybe it's dislike, but not quite hate like the fans feel. Does this week building up to the game feel more intense in that Cats locker room?
Like I said earlier, this game's, the most important because it's the next game on our schedule. And, that's how we kind of look at it. Like you said, I think, the outside, K-State fans, have a lot lot more hate than a lot of dudes in the locker room. But we're treating this like any other game. They're in the way of our goals and our aspirations for this team. So, we got to go take care of business.
Last one I've got for you, Cooper, and thinking about what that fan grouping is going to look like at David Booth, Kansas Memorial Stadium on Saturday night. It's a sold-out crowd. There's going to be a lot of KU fans, but a lot of Purple fans as well. How excited do you get when you play in front of a full house, no matter who you're playing on the road? And for a game like this, where there's definitely that intensity from the fan base, how much can that add to this kind of matchup?
No, it adds a lot. I mean, as a college football player, you want to play in those environments. Like, nobody wants to go play in a half empty stadium. And, I think that's one of the things that makes college football fun, whether you're home or away. It's just the atmosphere. They're just unbelievable, and it's hard to describe as a player out there. And, when especially going on the road, I really enjoy, road games more than home games, just because, it's the 75 or 80 people that we bring versus 60, 70, 100,000 people on the road. And I think we thrive off that kind of hey, and I love when people are heckling you and stuff like that. That's just what I love about college football.
Well, to follow that up, one extra thing for you. Do you have a favorite road trip memory that you've got from your illustrious career at K-State? One time where things were especially hostile, or one time when the crowd was extra rowdy that really stands out to you?
I think, both the times that we've traveled to Norman, especially was it last year? Yeah, last year. Just traveling down to Norman, man, that's an unreal experience. And to be able to, to beat the odds and come out with a win. Over my career, I'm undefeated in Norman. I don't know many people that can say that, but Norman has definitely been, one of the best environments I think, I've played in other than at home in my career.
No, there definitely are not a whole lot of players around college football who can say something like that. Cooper Beebe is one of the best offensive linemen in all of college football. Standout at guard for the Kansas State Wildcats. Kind enough to spend some of his time on this Wednesday afternoon with us here on 580 Sports Talk. Cooper, thank you so much for the time, man. We always appreciate you stopping by, hanging out with us. Best of luck coming up on Saturday in the Sunflower Showdown and wherever the rest of the season takes you guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
That is Cooper Beebe, the standout offensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. K-State just always has offensive linemen who are a blast to talk to. It's Dalton, it's Cooper. I'm sure the younger Beebe is going to be the same way once he eventually steps into a starting role. A lot of fun talking to Cooper Beebe. First round pick. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
He's going to be first guard off the board.
I think he is. I think he's going to be. He's got a chance. We never did follow up on this. He's got a chance to be the first consensus first-team All-American offensive lineman in K-State history. They've had some All-American offensive linemen, but never a consensus first-team All-American offensive lineman. Cooper Beebe's got a chance.
I think he's going to get it. I really do. Halfway through 580 Sports Talk, we'll take a break. We're going to talk a little NFL coming up on the other side of this timeout as you're listening to 580 WIBW. on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That's Dan Lucero. Jake Laban is on his way to Liberty, Missouri for some Washburn basketball coming up tonight. It'll be the Ichabod men in a single game against the Cardinals of William Jewell. Pregame begins at 6:45. Tip at 7 o'clock over on our sister station, Country 106.9. Bods won last year over William Jewell, I believe. 2 seasons ago, they played them in Liberty. I was there for that game. They lost. Tyler Guyman was hurt that day. Billy Jewell at a point guard who was so unbelievably frustrating to watch because every time he drove to the basket, he looked like Russell Westbrook trying to hunt for triple doubles. He would drive down the lane, have an open look for a layup, and then throw a no-look pass into the corner to try to hunt threes and assists. Extremely annoying. So hopefully Washburn doesn't have to deal with anything like that tonight. And hopefully the Ichabods can continue their momentum from a 1-1 fun weekend in Kansas City when they return to the KC Metro and take on Liberty. Again, 6 o'clock start time for that one coming up tonight. 6:45 pregame start over on our sister station, Country 106.9.
Take on William Jewell in Liberty. They are not playing the Flames tonight.
Yes, I'm sorry. I misspoke.
That's all right.
Wrapped up in trying to find last year's schedule. They did beat William Jewell at home in Topeka last year, 70-63. So hopefully they can continue that momentum. We've got a lot of Washburn basketball coming up. Ichabods will be in action this weekend. The men will be at home against Rockhurst on Saturday. You will be in Quincy, Illinois coming up this week.
Yes, I will. Oh my gosh, I have to find the name of the event because the name of the event is very funny.
It's not just the Quincy Classic.
It is not. No, it is not just the Quincy Classic. I'm going to.
Oh God, I see it.
Yeah, QUHawks.com. You want to tell the people?
It is the Hanson Spear Funeral Home Classic.
That's right. The Hanson Spear Funeral Home Classic at Pepsi Arena in Quincy, Illinois. The Washburn women will be playing a couple teams from the GLVC. They take on McKendree on Friday night. It's the first time they have ever played the McKendree Panthers? Bobcats?
Bearcats?
Bearcats. Maybe?
Bearcats. Yeah, they're Bearcats.
Yeah,
I'm certain
Bearcats.
of that.
Yes. So they play the McKendree Bearcats for the first time ever on Friday night. Then they take on the Quincy Hawks on Saturday afternoon for the first time since 1991. So that'll be a double header on Country 106.9 on Saturday. It'll be the Washburn men against Rockhurst at 2. And then immediately following, Jake will throw it to me in Quincy, Illinois. We'll join in progress Washburn's game against Quincy.
Here's a couple of fun facts for you about McKendree and Quincy. They both have Division I men's volleyball because there is no Division II men's volleyball. There's like 30 D1 teams. And
right, a lot of those Illinois schools do. Like I was looking at this up too. Lewis University won a national championship
in Romeoville, the Flyers. Yeah. That's I don't know, an hour from where I grew up. They also have Division I hockey and competitive powerlifting.
Who? Lewis?
McKendree.
Oh, McKendree.
Yeah, McKendree is competitive powerlifting. These small private religious schools it's like Lindenwood, which is now Division I. They've got 1 million sports.
Yes.
It's very, very strange. Additionally, McKendree, someone I actually played volleyball in high school with, played for their volleyball team, if I remember correctly. And he now works at the school.
I'm on Quincy's Wikipedia page, and under their notable alumni, in addition to a pair of former big leaguers and the trombonist for the band Chicago.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
And also Martin Crane from Frasier, John Mahoney.
Yes.
He's a Quincy Hawk. The actor who played Frasier's dad. Yeah.
Martin.
I know you know that. I'm just making sure people are picking up what I'm putting down. Also listed as a notable alumni is the Venerable Augustine Tolton, who is listed here as the first openly African-American Catholic priest. And usually, and I think you all know where I'm coming from, usually it's a different word that comes after openly.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the first openly something, it's usually a different word. That's the first time you've seen it used in that context. Openly African-American.
Yeah, that's wild. I
So
I've never seen that before.
Quite a turn of phrase.
Yeah, it's really an interesting group of people who went to school at Quincy University. I noticed you glanced over Michael Swango, a prolific serial killer and also doctor.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I didn't assume a serial killer because he didn't have his middle name listed.
That's funny.
But it does on his bio. Yeah. Michael Joseph Swango. Did they make a movie or a documentary about this guy?
Maybe. You dig deep into the depths of Amazon Prime, you might find one.
Netflix, right?
By the way, speaking of Quincy University, the unique sport they have, sprint football.
I saw that.
Yeah. For those who don't know, sprint football, you cannot weigh more than 178 pounds. So it's all lightweight players.
So you could play.
I could, yeah. I would probably be like a left tackle in sprint football. 6'4", 175. Yeah, I'd be the biggest lineman in the league. But yeah, it's a bunch of small religious schools, a lot of them D3, and then like military schools, like Navy and Army have sprint teams.
Yeah.
Penn,
Princeton.
Cornell, St. Thomas Aquinas College, which I'm going to be honest with you, I did not know that existed.
I think it was on ESPN Plus a couple weekends ago.
Really?
Yeah, there was a sprint football game on ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to watch it, but
so yeah, if you have, if you've got,
don't think they're running the tush push a
no,
lot
no,
in sprint football.
Lord, I hope not, because that would not be a pretty scene. Yeah, I mean, it looks like real football. It's just skinny, small and skinny. That's what it is. So yeah, there's a couple of facts for you about Quincy and McKendree colleges and universities. McKendree, are they a college or is that a university?
I believe that is McKendree University.
Okay, I know it's Quincy University.
McKendree University is the oldest college or university in the state of Illinois.
See, I did not know that.
Founded in 1828. So
yeah, I did not know that about McKendree. McKendree's north of Quincy, I believe.
South.
Oh, it's south. Okay.
Yeah, it's
they're
like,
right on the river.
Yeah, it's due east of St. Louis. It's that county, St. Clair County, right next to St. Louis.
Ah, yes, that means they're also nearby East St. Louis.
Not that nearby East St. Louis.
Okay.
Fortunately for them.
Yeah, no kidding. If you're ever thinking, what should I do when I go to St. Louis? Drive through East St. Louis and do not stop.
Stay on the west side.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's a little east. There's an Air Force base. You could go see the Cahokia Mounds.
I could.
Do you know what those are?
No.
So in the early days of what is now Illinois, in the southern and central, southern, and western sections of the state, the native peoples that lived there were mound builders. So they built these giant earthen mounds, essentially as like American pyramids. It's all earthen mounds of, dirt and mud and grass and whatever. And they built them essentially as shrines to their elders and their dead. And there's just these big mounds that are still there in Collinsville, Illinois.
Now, I might go do that on Saturday morning.
It's super, super cool.
I might go check that out.
It's not too far away. The Cahokia Mounds. So those of you who are planning trips to southwestern Illinois, hit your boy up. I got destinations for you to go check out. All right, we do have actual sports we wanted to get to this hour as well. We've got What Is Wrong With You coming up. That's inherently not sports, but we'll get to that coming up in a little bit. Tim Fitzgerald will join us for the Wildcat Wrap-up as well, coming up at the bottom of the hour. But first, Dan came up with the idea today that when we look at the AFC, which will have 7 playoff teams, how would we rank the 7 top contenders for the AFC crown this year? And it's important to point out that will not necessarily include all the teams that are in the playoff picture right now.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would argue they don't, because I think the Cincinnati Bengals, who are not in the top 7, they are 8th in the AFC right now behind Houston. I think they are going to be on this list.
They're going to be on my list. I'll tell you that.
All right, so let's just start at the top. Number 1 is the Chiefs.
Yes, number 1 is the Chiefs. Fewest flaws, I think. Best quarterback. They're the defending champs. Clearest path to a division title. Things look really, really good. It's good to be a Chief right now. They're number 1 with a bullet, I think, in the AFC.
I was thinking back when preparing for this, thinking back to what Matt Verderame told us yesterday about the fact that he doesn't think there's more than 2 or 3 Super Bowl contenders in the AFC, which at first blush, you think, come on, man. There's so many good quarterbacks. It's so deep.
Great defenses.
But I kind of see where he's coming from. I really do. So who would you put number 2? Who right now is the second biggest contender to win the conference?
It's the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay. I'm of the same mind.
Yes. So the reason I rank the Ravens second, I really like their defense. I think their defense is well coached. I think that they get after the quarterback. I think they do a lot of really interesting things schematically. They have gone up against 2 teams that are legitimate, I think, NFC contenders in Detroit and Seattle and utterly dismantled them. And they have Lamar is a guy I still think, and I know not everybody views Lamar Jackson in the same light or through the same lens or however you want to say it, but I've always believed Lamar Jackson is a guy you can win a Super Bowl with. And I think the reason you can win a Super Bowl with him is he is an accurate passer, but the things he can do with his legs it's different than any other quarterback in the league, in my opinion. That combination is just about unparalleled, his particular gifts. And they've got some good wide receivers. Like Mark Andrews is good at tight end. And Zay Flowers has had a nice rookie year. Rashad Bateman's taken a step forward. You have to count for Odell Beckham Jr., even though he's not the same guy he used to be. You still have to account for him. Their running game is functional. They always seem to deal with injuries, and they always seem to give away games they have no business giving away. And that's a trait that obviously is not an ideal one to take into the playoffs, where you got to win. You got to finish games. They don't always do that. And I think that that's a reason to rank them behind the Chiefs, frankly, because the Chiefs find ways to win. And the Ravens often are finding ways to lose games that they shouldn't lose. But I still think they're the number 2. I think they're the number 1 contender, if you will. If the Chiefs are at the top of the heap, if they've got the belt, I'd make the Ravens the number 1 contender right now.
I agree with that, and I agree with everything you say. The worry I have more than anything with Baltimore is that the thing about giving games away that they have no business giving away, that has been happening often enough and long enough now that is a trend. Like that is a legitimate flaw, I think, with that team right now. And I don't know what the fix for it is, because how many times have they played a game in the last going on 3 years now where, we're through 3 quarters. You think, okay, yeah, Baltimore's going to win that game. You look up and on red zone, all of a sudden, whoa, they're only up 7. Whoa, they're only up 3. How are they losing? It literally happened last week.
Yes, it did. They had no business losing that game. Absolutely none. They were in total command of that football game in the first 30 minutes. They got away. They
actually lead the NFL in point differential this year.
I believe it.
Plus 113. They are, in fact, okay, not quite double what the Chiefs are, but the Chiefs at plus 65 is the 3rd best in the conference. The Ravens are number 1 at 113 above their points allowed. That's a big deal.
Is it the Bengals number 2?
No,
it's
actually, the Bengals are both. They're
below 500. Yeah, I think it's the Bills.
Yeah, the Bills plus 78.
Yeah.
In the NFC, by the way, there's 2 teams that are over 100 in the positive for point differential: the Niners and the Cowboys. That's because the Cowboys destroy bad teams.
Yes,
and then lose to good teams. I'm with you on Baltimore. Number 3 for me is Cincinnati, though.
Yeah, because where I have them too.
I still think Cincinnati's got the next best quarterback in the conference after, I think, second best in the NFL after Mahomes. Now, I know he wasn't great for a lot of last week, but I still think Burrow is that guy. Their defensive talent, like it has been, is not a strong suit for them. Their defensive coaching, I think, is stellar. They've got some nice pieces, and it sounds like Trey Hendrickson's going to be okay, just a hyperextended knee, not anything worse. So I like their defense. I don't necessarily love it. And, I mean, offensively, they are what they've been. They don't run the ball all that effectively. Their offensive line is okay, but suspect, and they've got dynamic playmakers that Burrow throws the ball to. They have had that slow start this year, really screwed them over. But, I mean, heck, if they even win just this past weekend, they win that game over Houston, all of a sudden they're solidly in the playoffs, and they've got some real separation between anyone behind them, because no one believes in the Colts. They would be winning the tiebreaker over a Houston team that would at that point be sitting at 4-5, and they have a tiebreaker over the Bills. Like we would very easily be talking about, that's the team you don't want to face. That's what the Bengals would be, but they got off of that really terrible start. And I think that still leaves you a little bit of, will they get back to where they were the last 2 years? I think that's fair.
I don't think you want them to be the 7 seed.
No.
Let's just say that.
No.
You don't want to, if you're the bye team, you don't want them to be the 7. You don't want to play them in the divisional round.
You know, the interesting thing about that is if they ended up as your 7 seed, if they get in, Houston stumbles a little bit because they're still so young and their schedule's not hard, but they stumble a little bit. Bengals get the 7 seed. They'd play the Ravens in the opening round, and the winner of that game and if the Bengals won, they would then play the Chiefs. That is the biggest disaster scenario for the top 2 teams in the AFC.
Yeah.
Because, if you're the Ravens, you don't want to face another divisional team in the first round. Absolutely not.
Even though, if you're the Ravens, I think you feel pretty good about how you generally play the Bengals. God, they almost beat them with Tyler Huntley on the road last year in the playoffs. True. And would have if not for a freak play at the goal line.
That's true.
Ended up a 14-point swing.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. All right, so that's your top 3, and we're 100% in agreement there. After that, where do they line up? The teams that are in right now in the playoff picture, Jags, Dolphins, Steelers, Browns, and Texans. And only 4 teams can fit in. The Bills are also still alive. The Colts are alive. The Raiders are ahead of the Chargers. That's so funny. And then Jets, Broncos, Titans, Patriots round out the conference. So who's number 4?
Number 4 for me is the Miami Dolphins. And I've said that my great concern for Miami is that I don't think they're good counterpunchers.
Uh-huh.
I don't think they have a plan B. I think they have one way to win a football game. And if they don't win the football game in that way, they're not winning it. But they're also really good at getting to their plan A because they're super explosive. They run the ball really well. Tyreek Hill is having as close to an MVP type season as a wide receiver ever can have. They've got a defense that I think is going to round into form in the second half of the season. I don't expect them to slide in the second half this year like they did last year.
Uh-huh.
1, Tua got hurt last year. But 2, I think this year sets up better for them to have a better second half because they are getting healthy on offense and on defense. They're going to get Devin Achane back. They've got Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey back at corner. It's going to help their defense a great deal. I think that's a team that will go into the playoffs in a much better place than they did last year. So they're 4th for me.
I'm going to go with Jacksonville 4, Miami 5. And the reason why is I think, despite the fact that Jacksonville's offense has been a major disappointment this year, and Trevor Lawrence has 9 touchdown passes. That's concerning, I think, to say the least. But you know what this iteration of the Jacksonville Jaguars has done that this iteration of the Miami Dolphins have not? They've won a meaningful game.
Yes.
They've won a playoff game. They came back from a historic deficit to win a playoff game and then gave the Chiefs at least a little bit of a run 1 week later. The Dolphins, we're still waiting on that from the Dolphins. So I would go with Jacksonville 4th and then Miami 5th for that reason alone. Is just that I've seen the Jags win a game like that. We're still waiting to see that from Miami. Miami's got better talent, but I think Jacksonville's got some other things that I would take in a crucial crunch time situation more than I would take from Miami.
It feels like the offense is less than the sum of the parts for Jacksonville right now.
Fair.
And I think some of that is the play caller. I don't think Press Taylor's a very good play caller.
I do agree with that. And you know who else does? Jeffrey Lurie in Philadelphia. And that is why Doug Peterson is in Jacksonville in the first place.
Yes, but you know who thinks he's a great play caller? Doug Peterson. All
right, so our final 2 teams then.
Because I do. You assumed, but yes, correct. I have Jacksonville 5th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so.
fair.
So yeah, we haven't flip-flopped.
All right. Who's the last 2?
Number 6 for me is the Texans.
Okay.
Rounding into form, I think, the last 2 weeks. This would have been a ludicrous notion when they were 3-4. But even early in the year, given some of their early results, like we were talking after they beat Pittsburgh. And didn't just beat Pittsburgh, they crushed Pittsburgh, right? They beat them 30-6. And that was off a win at Jacksonville. You could look at Houston and say, that's a real football team.
Yeah.
Like they were punchline the last really ever since the Chiefs came back on them in that divisional round playoff game in 2019. They were kind of a punchline after that. They were very obviously like a real football team. I don't know anybody would have thought that they'd be in the playoff hunt after they started 2-2, but they were very obviously improving. Then they lost a game to the Falcons they had no business losing. They lost a game to Carolina they had no business losing. And they were sitting at 3-4, and now 2 weeks and 2 monster CJ Stroud performances later. Not only are we talking about the Texans as a possible playoff team, we're talking about Stroud as maybe a league MVP candidate. So what they've done has been really impressive. The worries I have for them, they can't really run the ball. They don't have a superstar pass rusher. Jonathan Greenard's having a nice season. Will Anderson should have more sacks than he does, but they don't have like superstars on defense. They don't game wreckers on the defensive side of the ball, but they play that DeMeco Ryans style. They take on the mentality of their head coach. I like the way they play.
Yeah.
So I think it's a defense that's improving. They're young, they're fast, and a quarterback that I think is getting better week over week as well. So that's another team I think could hit its stride in the second half of the year. I have them 6th in the AFC right now.
Who rounds it out with 7th?
The Buffalo Bills.
Oh, okay.
I still think, and put it to you this way. If you were the number 2 seed in the AFC, who would you least want to play as the 7? Pittsburgh, Cleveland, or Buffalo? I still think your answer is Buffalo.
Yeah, no, that's entirely fair. That is absolutely fair because they've all got fatal flaws, right? Pittsburgh's offense is disgusting. The Browns,
no nasty man.
The
He's
nasty
out for the
man's
year.
done. We'll get to that more in headlines, but he's done. So you're either facing PJ Walker or DTR if you get to the postseason, or you're facing a Bills team that is depleted and has bad vibes, but also has Josh Allen, who, when he is on, is still as good as anybody. So, no, I think that's entirely fair. I would have said, going into today, I would have put Cleveland 6, Houston 7, because I am still going to take an elite defense over a budding, developing offensive attack in Houston. I love what Houston's doing, and I love DeMeco Ryans. They're just so young and inexperienced. Not that Ryans is like in his first year as a coach, period. And sometimes it ends up helping out. You don't know what you don't know. I think that's kind of what worked for Jacksonville last year. You don't know what you don't know. Like you don't know you're supposed to be worried in a big game like that. But I think at this point, I'm going to go Cleveland 6, Pittsburgh 7. I'm going to include Pittsburgh in, and that's because of who their coach is, and that's because of what their defense is. And I know Cleveland, I'm essentially saying that if that's your 6 and your 7 seed, don't worry about him because Cleveland's not going anywhere without a quarterback, and Pittsburgh's offense is, again, disgusting.
I just don't think in this day and age, you're not winning a Super Bowl the way the Ravens won a Super Bowl in 2000.
I agree with that.
I don't think you're winning a Super Bowl like that. You have to at least have, I mean, I guess the 2015 Broncos were the last time you didn't have like well above average quarterback play. But you know what Peyton Manning didn't do in that playoff run? Turn the ball over.
And you also had...
And you know who he still was? Peyton Manning.
He's still Peyton Manning's brain. You know that for sure. And the other thing, too, that team had playmakers on offense. C.J. Anderson was playing his best football. He was a nice running back for a while.
Demaryius Thomas.
Demaryius Thomas was there. Emmanuel Sanders was at his very best around that time. Like, they had playmakers.
Yeah.
They just... Quarterback's arm was shot, but they were able to still make that work.
Yeah, they made a shake. They schemed around it. They didn't make mistakes, and the teams they played made a lot of them.
Kenny Pickett ain't that guy.
No.
He ain't Peyton Manning. I hate to break it to you.
He's not going to take care of the football in that way. And I don't think Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to do that either in Cleveland.
No, I don't think so either. We have to get to a break. Tim Fitzgerald will join us later this hour. First, we've got What Is Wrong With You? That's up next on 580 Sports Talk. for a quick round of What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk before we get to the Wildcat Wrap-up with Tim Fitzgerald. What Is Wrong With You is, as always, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications. That saves you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to your metal with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field here in the capital city. Our winner for the week so far is the gentleman who robbed a K Jewelers, led police on a chase, tried to wave him ahead, put his hand out the car window and said, no, keep going. It ain't me. And then told the police, you're not supposed to pursue me. This was not part of the plan. That is our winner so far. Dan, you are up first for today.
All right, we're going to Polk County, Florida. There was a series of car burglaries that ended with a crash during a police chase. 37-year-old Timothy Hogue of Apopka, Florida, was speeding in a 2006 Cadillac CTS and being chased by deputies when he crashed. Hogue is facing charges of burglary of an unoccupied conveyance with an enhancement of crossing county lines, felony petty theft, fleeing to elude, conspiracy to commit burglary, possession of methamphetamine, possession of marijuana, possession of drug paraphernalia, and resisting arrest without violence. Hogue suffered some minor injuries, including a head wound in the crash. 31-year-old Rebecca Kozub of Ocoee was a passenger in the Cadillac and also a suspect in the burglaries. She was also injured. The reason this rises to What Is Wrong With You status, the tattoo on the gentleman's neck. Hogue has a tattoo which reads, all gas, no brakes.
I'll say, wow, that's awesome.
So the guy with an all gas, no brakes tattoo steals a bunch of cars and gets in a car crash.
So
that's what we're dealing with here.
Let's be specific here. He doesn't just have an all gas, no brakes tattoo. It's on his neck.
Yes, it's on his neck. And honestly, it's not very well. Like, it's all gas, and then like the no sits above the word brakes. So it looks like it says all no gas brakes.
Yeah.
Not a very well-conceived tattoo.
Also, they couldn't have let this guy wash his face before they took his mugshot. I mean, he's just covered in dried blood.
Yeah, he's all scabbed up. He's got a gnarly wound right in the crown of his head.
Yeah, oof.
Yeah, maybe...
the one that's wrong with you here is this tattoo. It's terrible.
It is a really bad tattoo. Maybe should have been some brakes. I don't know.
All no gas brakes. For my story today, we are also going to Florida, where a woman who was the mistress of a man she referred to as her sugar daddy is accused of firing a gun into the car of the man's full-time girlfriend, all while the girlfriend's child sat in the car.
Oh, boy.
Zara Percy, the alleged shooter, used the man's gun in the act, per authorities. The Daytona Beach love triangle violently collapsed outside an apartment building on November 4th when the 20-year-old Percy found out the man she was seeing had a full-time girlfriend. The victim said she went to pick up dinner from Wendy's at 9 p.m. That's my kind of dinner time, 9 p.m. On November 4th, when she saw a silver car parked outside her house, according to an affidavit. She told authorities she had seen the car pass by the residence before, so she approached the vehicle. As the unidentified woman parked next to the vehicle, she saw Percy exit the apartment building. The woman's boyfriend, who is also the father of the 1-year-old child, was walking with Percy. The woman then reportedly got out of her car to confront Percy and her boyfriend, and someone shouted, quote, "She has a gun!" Authorities said the victim ran back to her car to seek safety, while Percy simultaneously opened the trunk of her car and pulled out the gun. She started shooting at the victim and toward her car, where the infant was seated inside. Police say at least 2 rounds were fired. Percy was apprehended 6 days later, according to TV station WKMG, after being pulled over on a traffic stop with the gun from the shooting still in the car. She was arrested and faces charges of shooting into a vehicle. That is a really specific charge. She was facing $5,000 bond. Get rid of the gun. Put it anywhere else.
Look, I don't know a lot about the sugar daddy life, but I feel like that is strictly a financial arrangement. And if you would like that to be something more than a strictly financial arrangement, that needs to be a conversation and not gunplay.
Yeah, I personally would have had a conversation with both women here about the arrangement. And if they say, no, we're not cool with that, well, then I probably would live with the consequences. I also wouldn't do this because this seems a little trashy to me, but hey, to each their own. So those are our 2 stories for today. We got the sugar daddy shooting, and we've got all no gas brakes.
I like all no gas brakes for today, but do I like it better than you're not supposed to pursue me?
That one is so funny. Like, I have a script.
He was doing Jedi mind tricks.
This is not the car you're looking for.
I got all this jewelry in the front seat next to me.
That
Hopefully,
gets
if
my
I
vote.
wave them by,
That gets my vote for today.
Me too.
That remains our winner in What Is Wrong With You. You're not supposed to pursue me. What Is Wrong With You, of course, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Tim Fitzgerald joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. What a big Kansas State victory it was Monday night on the basketball court, Saturday on the football field. And to talk all things Wildcat sports, we bring on the publisher of GoPowerCat.com, Tim Fitzgerald. You can find him on Twitter at Life of Fitz. And, of course, go check out all of the phenomenal work covering K-State that Fitz and his crew do at GoPowerCat.com. What's going on, Fitz?
I'm just sitting here staring at stuff from the Big 12 in dismay. So I got other stuff to do. I got real things to worry about other than being gaslit by the conference I cover.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to start with here because, look, K-State beat the brakes off of Baylor. Baylor stinks. Dave Aranda probably a fraud. K-State responds well to losses. That's the easy stuff there. The tiebreaker situation, one, this time of year as we start crossover season, basketball, football, major football game coming up, don't we love talking about bylaws? Who doesn't love bylaw talk when we get to mid-November? That's just awesome. But you mentioned feeling gaslit by the Big 12. What's going on here? Because I feel like this is something that could have easily been fixed by, I don't know, employing an editor in the Big 12 offices, but also just being upfront and direct about what happened. What's your read on this entire situation and what the Big 12 is saying about the tiebreaker rules?
Well, step one, you are correct. Whoever wrote these bylaws, the guidelines for breaking ties of 3 schools or more, needs to go back to, I don't know, junior high, maybe grade school to learn how to write, because the second sentence of step one is utter nonsense. I mean, you know what they're trying to say because all the right words are there. They're just not put into a sentence structure like a normal human being would. And that's really the problem. But at no point does step one say, if all teams don't play each other, but someone wins both games against opponents, they win. It doesn't say that at all. It says if everyone doesn't play each other, you move to step two. You don't do a round robin. You move to step two. Now, let's be clear about this. It shouldn't be that way. Oklahoma State has beaten Oklahoma and Kansas State. If those three teams are tied, I agree they should be in when the rules are altered at the proper time, because the rules don't say that. They clearly don't say that. And the Big 12 trying to claim this is a clarification, not a change, is an outright lie that treats your fans like idiots and allows guys like Brett McMurphy to hop on board and say, I got the scoop. It's not a change. It's just a clarification. Yeah, Brett, it's a change. And you need to probably go back and read what was posted on the Big 12's own website earlier this week, because they have altered the meaning of those rules. Did they get it right with this alteration? Yes. Was it right to do it in the middle of the season? Absolutely not. You don't change rules in the middle of a game.
And that's where I am too, because like logically, you step back, you say, hey, don't read the rule book for a moment. Let's just lay the situation out. Oklahoma State has beaten both teams. Not everyone has played each other head to head, but that's the situation. I think most people would say, okay, yeah, I get it. Like that makes at least a modicum of sense. I can understand the logic behind it. But to make it so confusing and then to act like, well, hold on, that didn't happen. You said you read that? Well, no, you didn't. Like that to me is the problem here. And that's a leadership problem more than it's anything else, at least in my view.
I mean, maybe they made these changes before the season and someone didn't update the website. Excuse me. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's it. But to tell us that it hasn't changed when it's clearly changed, I think amplifies the anger you're hearing from K-Staters. Because if they just were honest and say, hey, guys, we screwed up. We did not word this properly. And in the name of fairness and doing what's right, if these three schools are tied, Oklahoma State wins, period. We shouldn't have gotten it wrong. We did. You can argue about when we fixed it, but we have fixed it. And K-Staters be like, well, that sucks. K-State's lost a lot of outcomes because rules were bad. And then they were changed after K-State lost whatever it was. K-State going to the Alamo Bowl in 98 instead of the best of bowl available. Well, that was a bad rule by the conference. Did they change it immediately when they realized something went wrong? No, they waited till the next year. You can go through the litany of, quote, K-State rule, dunking in the pregame of NCAA tournament, applied once in the history of the tournament against K-State, against Kentucky. Next year they said, you know what, it's no longer illegal to dunk. Tipping in at the buzzer. A tip in at the buzzer back in the 70s was not a shot. They waved off a shot by K-State in the NCAA tournament and shot free throws because it was a tip-in. It should have been an and one. After the tournament, they said, you know what, that rule's bad. We're going to change it for next year. They didn't huddle up at midcourt and say, we've determined this rule's wrong, and we're going to change the rule in the middle of the game. No, that's not how you do it.
Our guest is Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. We do it every Wednesday at this time on the program. Check out Fitz and his staff's outstanding work at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and find him on Twitter at Life of Fitz. On the field, Fitz, it's Sunflower Showdown week. 14 straight in the bank for the Wildcats as they head to Lawrence this Saturday, not quite knowing who's going to play quarterback for the opposing Jayhawks. But for the first time since 1994, it's a ranked matchup in the Sunflower Showdown. How much more excitement does that generate? I know that it's been such a one-sided rivalry that it is maybe a game that K-State fans have started to take for granted over the years. But how much more juice do you feel around the fan base, around Manhattan, going into a week where it's two ranked teams and there's something at stake here?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I genuinely feel bad for Kansas because I was looking forward to seeing this being a Jalen Daniels, matchup. And then when that became clear that wasn't going to happen, Jason Bean has been playing outstanding football. Maybe he plays, but I mean, even if he does, after that hit I saw, getting his knee twisted back and getting a knock to the head, he's not going to be the same. That's not at all what we signed up for. We thought this was going to be the epic clash of the rising program against the big bad bully that's won 14 straight. And we're not going to quite get that, but that doesn't mean KU doesn't have a chance. This really game's about two things that don't necessarily include the quarterback. One is the defense is radically better for Kansas. You can see that. They're not just stopping teams. They're taking the ball away and scoring with the ball on defense, and that's a huge change for Kansas. And offensively, they've settled into such a good system. Chris Kleiman said it at Tuesday's press conference. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. The system is the issue. All the switch and trades and motion and all the stuff that they do, pre-snap in particular, is troubling for a defense to get lined up right. And that's a huge factor in this game because now K-State is truly down to a true freshman middle linebacker with 2 injuries at that position. And that could lead to some confusion. This is going to be a good game. I think because of the quarterback situation, K-State is at a pretty good advantage here. But this KU team fight, and I admire that. And Lance Leipold in 2.5 years has completely changed this culture. And guys, that is hard to do, and it's very admirable.
Kansas State has been awesome at Bill Snyder Family Stadium this year, just paving people at home. Games haven't even been close. They've been blowing out opponents, particularly recently at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. The road results have been different. And yes, that's schedule-based. They've played better teams away from home than they've played at home. But how can K-State take some of that home juice just a short trek down I-70 to David Booth, Kansas Memorial Stadium Saturday?
Well, if it's typical, they'll have quite a few fans there. And that always helps. There's always a good representation in Lawrence. And at great profit for University of Kansas. So that does help. They'll have their band. They've always been comfortable there. I covered the game 2 years in Lawrence, and, KU had to end up with their third string quarterback, who was Jalen Daniels at that point because he was trying to redshirt. And they had to play him in that game after the first 2 guys got injured. This is always a physical, emotional game that the Kansas kids in the locker room really feed off of. And at Kansas State, there's a lot more of those guys, and I think there's a lot more demand to go out and play at a high level in this contest, at least historically.
Let's switch gears to the hardwood, Fitz. K-State's got 2 wins on the bounce after losing their opener to USC, beat a good South Dakota State team on Monday night at Bramlage Coliseum. I wanted to ask about this 3-player freshman class of R.J. Jones, Day-Day Ames, and Michaela Rich. We've seen them over the first 3 games. And I've sat here and said nice things about K-State freshman classes before and been wrong. Like, I was wrong. I thought Antonio Gordon would be a fine Big 12 player. He was not. I thought Deshaun Gordon had a chance to maybe be all Big 12 someday. Didn't quite happen. But this freshman class feels a little different to me, Fitz. How impressive have these 3 been, and what have you liked best about how they've come out and played early on?
It is impressive. I mean, R.J. Jones shot the cover off of it on Monday night against South Dakota State, and Day-Day Ames, the game before that, played exceptionally well too. He had 7 assists on Monday night, but no points, or maybe 2 points. And then Michaela Britch, who is, I don't want to say project, but he's got a lot of things to develop, but raw athletic skill is not one of them. And he came in on Monday night and played a number of minutes and scored 8 points, including a thunderous dunk to wrap up scoring for K-State. So these guys can have an impact, and they've needed them as of late because, on Monday night, they were down 3 guys that they expected to be in their player rotation. So that takes you down to 10 on scholarship, and bluntly put, you've got 2 redshirt freshmen that aren't playing to the level they need them. And that kind of gets you to 8 guys, and that means your freshmen are going to play significant roles. And they did, and they were productive against South Dakota State. But as you up the competition, that bar rises dramatically, and we'll see their comfort level go down. But they'll also just start to grow into the experience of playing Big 12 level basketball.
Last couple of questions for Tim Fitzgerald, the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. It's part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Fitz joins us every single Wednesday at this time for the Wildcat Wrap-up on the Flubbing Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Arthur Kaluma didn't play on Monday against South Dakota State, and it sounds like he's going to be back and ready to go for the trip to the Bahamas coming up this weekend. But after last Friday's game and the win over Bellarmine, Jerome Tang made a comment about buy-in for Kaluma and what will essentially get him going in this early part of the season. How much do you read into that content? Was that comment, was that more of just hey, let's pay a little bit more attention, we'll be fine? Or was that really trying to dig a little deeper into, hey, Kaluma, figure it out?
Yeah, it's interesting to me, that they say he had an injured knee, didn't really practice, and so he had to sit that game out. They clarified the buy-in comment with beat writers, including our own Ryan Gilbert, to be really more about just relaxing and letting it come to you. Understand the system and let the system work in your favor, not trying to force it. And that makes sense in watching how Kaluma's played in the first two games he played in. He did seem like he was forcing it. He forced it a lot against USC, shooting 1 of 11 from the field, including 0 of 6 from three-point range. He looked a little bit better. Of course, again, much lesser competition in Bellarmine. But if they can get him playing the way he did at Creighton, starting this weekend against a really solid Providence team, that'll be really good news. And maybe we're getting closer to a Naquan Tomlin return. Quez Glover is, of course, out for a while with that knee injury. But if they can get some of these pieces back, I think you'll see them start to improve dramatically, particularly a guy who's been around the Big 12 circuit once in Naquan. And I think we are getting closer to seeing a resolution to the situation.
It'll be Providence on Friday, and Providence is coming off of a dominant win over Wisconsin just yesterday. But the second game, it'll either be Miami or it'll be Georgia. We were both saying yesterday on the show, kind of think Miami would be a better matchup. You've got a really good coach, a team that's won a lot recently. Get the Nigel Pack storyline in there as well. Which of those two teams would you rather see K-State face on Sunday, Fitz? Would that be Georgia or Miami?
Well, Georgia is kind of struggling, so that would be the choice, but that probably means you lost on Friday. I would imagine it'll be Miami moving across the bracket and for the championship game. I think you'd rather play Miami because that probably means you beat Providence. This is a great test for Kansas State. I thought Monday night would be a test, but then I found out Kaluma wasn't playing, and I thought for sure they were really going to have problems with South Dakota State because that's a good team with some good players, including a star from Lawrence. And they handled them, but they also shot the lights out in that game. And anytime your team shoots the lights out, it makes you, as a coach, look pretty smart. Jerome Tang looked brilliant on Monday night. Let's see what they do playing basketball in a ballroom in a Bahamas resort and see if that works in their favor, because I've been told that this tournament has a little history of some issues, including bad ventilation that leads to a lot of humidity on the court, which is less than ideal.
Awesome. Love that. You going to make the trip?
Brian Gilbert is on his way later tonight, early tomorrow morning, and he will be there for the Go Powercat staff. And I got a crew of guys going over to Lawrence. As you can tell by my voice, I am fighting a cold. So with my other stuff going on, I thought I better just lay low this weekend and work from the studio. And that's probably best for me anyhow, with a guy in the Bahamas and a team in Lawrence, just to kind of be here at home base and coordinate everything. But Go Powercat will be everywhere we need to be.
And make sure you check out all of their phenomenal coverage. The entire crew from the Bahamas, from Lawrence, all the K-State coverage you could ever want can be found at GoPowerCat.com. Again, as we always tell you, be a 24/7 premium VIP member. It is absolutely 100% worth the cost. You can find Fitz all over the place on social media. Twitter, that's at Life of Fitz. His work at GoPowerCat.com. And make sure you check out the Go Powercat YouTube as well. Fitz, thank you so much for the time. As always, enjoy all the K-State sports this weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep, get over to that YouTube channel. Our pregame show will drop at midnight. It is my project for the day.
Love it. Thank you, Fitz.
You bet, boys.
That's Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. Hey now, time for the final hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That's Dan Lucero. We're here with you until 6 o'clock tonight. If you want to be a part of the show, hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429, or you can comment on YouTube. The name of our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. It's the same name as our show itself. So head over there, make sure you subscribe. I believe at last check, we're up to 372 subscribers on the YouTube.
Hey, getting closer to that 400 mark.
Closer and closer. 4 touchdowns away. There's 4 touchdowns away, 28 away. So go subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the live stream today. You can hop into the comment section. It's live throughout the show.
Don't make us start giving out tote bags for subscriptions.
No, we are not public radio.
Only donations. We'll do tote bags. We'll do some maybe some coffee mugs. Those Stanley cups that are super popular these days.
Yeah, my wife has one, but it's not Stanley. It's some other brand, but she's got one. When
I first heard about those, obviously my conception of what a Stanley Cup is very different. Like when you say that to me, the first thing I think of is something that a lot of people have drunk libations out of in celebration of winning a hockey championship.
That's fair.
And not like
pumpkin spice at home.
Yes. The thing you go get if you are like 20 and Target is your personality.
Damn. I know what you're saying, but damn. Just roasting them. That's really funny. I mean, they're nice cups. They keep stuff cold. I'll give you credit. My wife usually just drinks water out of hers, and when she isn't looking, I will often take a sip, and it's very cold.
Hey, well, they got that going for them.
They definitely do work. Coming up in this hour, we'll get to our headlines in just a moment. Some thoughts on the Champions Classic. We didn't get to hear from Dan a little bit earlier today when we were talking Champions Classic, so we'll get to that. Plus, McFlurries and cheeseburgers. You buy them at the same place, but should you eat them at the exact same time?
What?
Lions wide receiver Jameson Williams is willing to go where most men wouldn't dare. We will get to that later this hour as well. I'm in favor of weird stuff at fast food restaurants, but this might be a bridge too far. That's all coming up this hour, plus your texts and your comments on the YouTube stream. First headline for me as we dive into this 5 o'clock hour. This was tweeted out by Mayor Quentin Lucas of Kansas City just a little bit ago, about 30 minutes ago, in fact. He tweeted that over the past several weeks, the city, that's Kansas City, and the Kansas City Royals have engaged in productive and increasingly concrete discussions related to the potential of a new Royals stadium in downtown Kansas City. Mayor Lucas goes on to add, the mayor will continue to work with the Kansas City Royals, the Kansas City Chiefs, and Jackson County to accelerate decisions around site selection. As he has said time and again, Kansas City has been home to the Kansas City Royals since the team's inception, and he expects the Kansas City Royals and Chiefs to remain in Kansas City for generations to come. This was obviously tweeted by the mayor's account, but not in first person for Mayor Quentin Lucas. So this tells me two things. One, going to avoid the North Kansas City plan. They're going to avoid the Clay County plan. But also, the city and the Royals have engaged in productive and increasingly concrete discussions related to the potential of a new stadium in downtown Kansas City. That doesn't really tell me anything, I think. This sort of seems like it's, more status quo than it is actually new information. Because if you read it surface level, you think, okay, they're going to do the downtown Jackson County plan, not the Clay County plan. The potential of a new stadium, but everything's got potential. I could potentially become a millionaire tomorrow if I end up winning the lottery. But that doesn't mean something is actually happening here. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm supposed to fully buy into this really meaning anything at this point. But I figured it was worth bringing up because, well, we're all very curious when this new stadium is going to be figured out.
I would assume that most people who are in favor of a new Royals stadium would prefer the downtown plan to the North Kansas City plan. So I think if you are of the mind that it is time to leave Kauffman Stadium and it is time for a new Royals ballpark for new generations, that downtown is the best place for it. Mm-hmm. I have long been an advocate of downtown ballparks, having grown up going to one. I saw what it could do to revitalize an area of downtown. And I think it opens up your stadium to be fuller on a more regular basis and bring a new audience to the ballpark because you make it part of a night out and you get people hooked on baseball that way who might not otherwise schlep all the way out to the Truman Complex just to see a game and go home. So I am also in favor of the downtown site. It's easily the most preferable, I think, of the two. And if that's the direction that indeed the Royals are moving in with Jackson County, I think it's positive. Undeniable positive. But I also think that it's a lot of word salad in that tweet.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really give you a feeling like anything, even though the word concrete is used, it doesn't feel like anything concrete can really be taken from that.
No quickcrete involved here. So that's the latest-ish on the stadium situation for the Kansas City Royals.
How about some new information from Sign Stealing Gate?
Oh!
Any interest?
Let's do it.
So the Associated Press requested some information from the University of Michigan in regards to the ongoing investigation into low-level staffer Connor Stallions and his sign-stealing scheme. And as many have joked on Twitter, this is the fastest Michigan has ever responded to a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request. This is the fastest that Michigan has ever responded to a FOIA request, maybe in history, and maybe among the fastest that a university has ever complied with a FOIA request. Anyway, the request found from the Associated Press that Connor Stallions did not file expense reports in the time he was employed by the Michigan Wolverines, a period of time covering May 2022 through November 3rd of this year. So footballscoop.com obviously takes this in like the extreme direction and says, well, that probably means that it was another staffer paying for the tickets.
Right.
Or that the university was paying for it off the books. It was all off the books.
Uh-huh.
I think this is actually further evidence that what we had here was Connor Stallions just freelancing, doing his own thing, YOLOing it, if you will, and deciding I'm gonna do this thing, and why should I expense the university for it? It's my idea. I'm doing it. If anybody at the university found out, they might not like it because it's against the rules. But nobody has to know. Keep it on the down low. And yes, Connor Stallions, who bought a $485,000 house in Ann Arbor, has the money to buy some good football tickets.
I think my official, I won't say uninformed because I've read all of these stories. I think my official stance is someone at Michigan said, all right, you want to be a part of the program? Go get some signs for us. Go figure out what Ohio State's calling. Go get some signs. And then just did it to get rid of him. I will make an allegory here. I went to college with someone, was in the journalism school. They have a fairly prominent job in the media today. It is not me. Do not make jokes at my expense. It was not me. They had an internship with the Associated Press, and they were sent to Washington, D.C. to cover Commanders Camp one year. And they were such a pain in the ass to work with. They essentially said, okay, you're going to go cover camp every single day, and you're going to write notebooks, which is essentially like overhear press conferences and then write down a few quotes and put it in the story. Like, that's what your job is. Because they just had to get rid of this person. They could not deal with them in the newsroom anymore. So they said, go write notebooks at practice every day. My hunch is that is what happened with Connor Stallions. They said, yeah, okay, you want a job with the team? Go steal signs. Get out of here. Go do something. Go steal signs. And that turned into, I'm going to be the best sign stealer ever, and they're going to have to include me.
See, I think it's the opposite. I think he had experience doing the sign stuff when he was working at
the Navy.
The Navy, yes. And working
currently employed at the Navy,
volunteering for that football program. And so he said to the staffer who was with the Naval Academy and then went to the University of Michigan, hey, put in a good word for me. I'd love to join the staff. And when that got him a conversation with somebody who could make a decision like that, he said, well, I'm really good at deciphering signs. And they said, great. Every staff's got a sign guy. You're our sign guy. And Connor Stallions said, bet. And then it follows that he decided he would be the best to ever do it and break the rules and not tell anybody about it and figure nobody's going to trace it back to me, somebody with the totally normal name Connor Stallions. I'll even buy the tickets in my own name.
His name is Connor Stallions.
Like nobody is denying, not even the University of Michigan, that Connor Stallions, like, yeah, he did that, man. He broke those rules. He did that. But
I mean, it's like the KU thing in that regard, right? It's, oh, yeah, we know it happened, but it's not our fault.
Right.
Yeah. We weren't involved. It's the plausible deniability of it all.
Michigan literally playing the victim. We were victimized by a low-level staffer.
We were victimized by a vacuum salesman.
Except in this case, I think I don't think it's BS. I think legitimately they had no idea he was breaking this pretty plainly spoken NCAA rule about in-person staff scouting.
It really is every single day. Something new every single. It seems impossible that you could get this much information new every day, but yet here we are with this story at least a month after it began. When did this all start? September? October?
No, last month.
Okay, it was October.
Yeah, because they fired. When did they fire Stallions? It says his employment came to an end November 3rd, so it would have been 2 weeks ago they fired him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does he have a Wikipedia page?
I don't think he has one yet. He should.
Nah, it doesn't look like he does. Damn. Unless I'm spelling. Oh, but there is one for University of Michigan football sign stealing scandal.
Yeah, that's sufficient.
Unfortunately, no link to Connor Stallions, though. The C also includes University of Michigan basketball scandal, as well as WikiLeaks, though. I thought Dave Clawson had a really good point, and I'm very much against a lot of the punishment that has been argued against Michigan, like, oh, suspend him, ban Jim Harbaugh. Like, I've been against most of that. But I do feel like Dave Clawson saying, hey, man, we got screwed. What the hell? Why was there none of this for us? Well, unfortunately, Dave, you are Wake Forest and they are Michigan. And this is major college football. And that's just kind of the way things go. Next headline for us today on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. As we always have to lead with when we talk about the NBA on this show, we're not a big NBA show.
We're not. I'm a big NBA guy, but we do not have an NBA show.
I wish I didn't have an NBA fandom often, but stupid Bulls. But anyway, last night there was a fight in the NBA, but this was not your typical guys are shoving a little bit back and forth. This isn't quite Malice at the Palace. There were no fans involved. But 3 players were ejected from last night's Timberwolves-Warriors game before a single point was scored.
Yeah, less than 2 minutes in to the contest.
Klay Thompson of the Warriors and Jaden McDaniels of the Timberwolves got in a tiff. They got in a pushing, shoving, grabbing match. Jerseys were being pulled. Fists were flying. Not full-on punches. But it got nasty. Those two had to get kicked out for what they did.
Yes. And of course, when 2 parties mix it up, that usually draws the other 8 players on the floor towards the skirmish to, generally speaking, try to play peacemaker.
And that is, for the most part, what Rudy Gobert was trying to do. Current Timberwolf.
Large French man.
Yep, large. The big beignet. He maybe
Patient zero.
Yeah, started the COVID pandemic. That's not true. That's a joke. Don't get me in trouble. He may have been a little bit aggressive toward Klay Thompson trying to break up the fight, but he was clearly trying to break up the fight. That is when Draymond Green stepped in.
Yeah, he did.
And Draymond Green does not like Rudy Gobert. And not really anyone. Well,
there are not a lot of guys in the league who are totally fond of Rudy Gobert.
No, not many, including many of his own teammates everywhere he's been.
Yeah, somebody punched him last year. That was a thing.
But you know who else is not very well liked around the league by literally anyone but his own teammates?
Draymond Green.
Draymond Green, who had a score, I guess, to settle with Rudy Gobert.
I'm not even sure it was that. I think he saw a fracas developing and chose violence, which
quite literally.
Yes. Draymond Green will always choose violence if violence is an option. And I think he saw an opening, and that opening happened to be the size of Rudy Gobert's neck. And he went over there and he put him in the $1 million dream.
He grabbed on and he choked him out and was not let go. He's walking 2/3 of the floor with this 7-foot man's head in the crook of his elbow.
Rudy had his arms up like he was looking for the ropes.
Yeah.
like Hulk Hogan every time he got caught in the sleeper.
Where's the 5 count?
Earl Hebner, help.
Hebner's taking a bump on the other side of the court.
It's just
Macho Man's running down to the ring with a chair.
There was absolutely no need for Draymond Green to get involved. But if there is an opportunity for Draymond Green to start some tomfoolery, he's always going to do it. And he saw Rudy Gobert, said, now's my chance to put that man in the Bob Backlund crossface chicken wing. I'm going to do it. I might never get this chance again.
Freaking Bob Backlund out there. And it was like, jokes aside, this is messed up. Like, this is, to me, beyond the kicks below the belt, which are also bad, and he should have been punished more than he was for that, and the various other dumb stuff that Draymond Green has done on and off the court in his career, mostly on the court, and then being a podcaster, which has been inflammatory too, but less worthy of punishment. Like, this is deranged, man, to hold. Like, if you did that real quick and then let go, that's bad enough and probably deserves a suspension. He wouldn't let go. He's ragdolling him up and down the court.
Yeah, he took him from he took him a solid 20-25 feet down the floor in that chokehold.
Except here's the thing. His own coach is Steve Kerr's obviously a good basketball coach, a really good coach.
Got the championships to prove it.
He's kind of a prick, huh? Like, but I know I can say that because when Eric Bieniemy said that about Mahomes, we played that clip like 100 times. I know I can say that. But he is. And he never, ever, ever is willing to accept responsibility on behalf of himself or the Warriors. It's always someone else's problem. It's always someone else's beef. And he's always protecting Draymond Green. And for Green's part in this, you have to suspend him. Except the problem is the commissioner of the NBA has less spine than a jellyfish. He's completely spineless.
I don't know. I think Draymond's going to get a pretty lengthy suspension for this one.
I hope so.
Given his history, I could easily. This is definitely going to be a multi-game suspension for Draymond Green. The funniest part of this was Rudy Gobert, the heartbreaking, the worst center just made a very important point when he spoke after the game and pointed out that Steph Curry wasn't playing and Draymond Green doesn't like to play when Steph Curry doesn't play.
Because it's the only way he looks good.
So Draymond went out and got himself injected 2 minutes into a game where Curry wasn't playing.
Do you know how hard it is to make Rudy Gobert the good guy? Do you know how difficult that is?
The guy who touched all of the reporters' microphones 2 days before he shut down the NBA by getting COVID.
It's such a bad situation. Draymond sucks, man. This was my tipping point, which probably says more about me than him at this point, because I was like, man, he's kind of a tool, but I don't know, whatever. But, like, this is messed up. Genuinely messed up.
Yeah, it was funny, though. Like, I got to admit, like, the images, like, the memes, the meme potential, like, it's very strong. You're going to see that picture of Rudy being choked out by Draymond Green. If you're on social media, you're going to see that picture a lot.
Oh,
And you're going to see it captioned. Like, Rudy Gobert is going to be captioned as me, and Draymond Green is going to be captioned as the commercial where the giant bison sings about bourbon barbecue wings for Buffalo Wild Wings.
No, you're going to make it black and white and put the Grand Theft Auto Wasted over it. Yeah, that's your big NBA headline of the day.
I can't do Inside the NBA justice last night. They were so funny talking about it.
Was it Shaq who put Chuck in the chokehold?
Yeah. Chuck saying he didn't need to do that. That's not something you should do. And everybody saying, you did the same thing. You did that to Larry Bird. What are you talking about?
They are the best.
Very, very funny. All right. Next headline for me is the big NFL news of the day. Just removed from probably his best half of play as a Cleveland Brown. Deshaun Watson has learned that will be his last half of play as a Cleveland Brown, or for anybody, for the remainder of the 2023 NFL season. Watson needs season-ending surgery to repair a fracture in his throwing shoulder, and the Browns have announced he will miss the remainder of the campaign. Dorian Thompson-Robinson will get the start at quarterback Sunday when the Browns take on the Steelers, which is a massive game in the AFC North race.
Over under 16.5 points. That is going to be disgusting.
So it opened at 38.5, and now I'm curious as to what it is now. I mean, it opened at 38.5 with the understanding that Watson was A, going to play, and B, was coming off 14 consecutive completions to close out their come-from-behind victory. The current total is now 32.5. Oh, my God.
Yeah. We're getting dangerously close to Iowa territory here.
32.5 for an NFL game.
Yikes. That's insane. All right. So I will address the who's going to play quarterback first. I imagine for Cleveland, they view this as we have a higher ceiling with DTR than we do with PJ Walker. We know what PJ Walker is. Maybe there's a little bit more juice we can squeeze out of DTR, so we're going to go with him. I can at least understand that. And if he really sucks, you go back to PJ Walker. So what? Who cares? As for the nasty man, Deshaun Watson, I don't ever root for someone to be injured. And despite the fact that he is a very gross man, my personal belief system makes me think that I shouldn't root for like harm upon other people. But I will say unequivocally, I feel absolutely no sympathy for him.
No,
I don't.
Or the Browns, frankly.
No. Oh God, no. Absolutely not. They made this bed. Now you lie in it. This is the consequences of your actions. By the way, I saw today, I think it's 11 games in the last 3 years that Watson has played. Yeah, 11 games in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
for that contract.
And it's all guaranteed. And they they backloaded it so severely, like they knew last year was a lost year.
Yep.
So for the other 4 years, starting with this one, so much of their salary cap, so many of their resources are sunk into this guy. And never mind the talk about whether or not he can still play at a high level. Like, he can't play at all right now. And that is a big problem for a team that has somehow stumbled upon assembling a team that, if they had the Houston version of Watson right now, we might be talking about as a Super Bowl contender.
Yep.
So funny how that has worked. A couple of breaking headlines, too, real quick. Run through some breaking news here. Number one, the National League has just announced its Cy Young Award winner for the second time in his career. It is Blake Snell, the left-hander for the San Diego Padres.
Yeah.
One of the least pleasant pitchers to watch in baseball because he goes to a full count on everybody. But boy, he sure strikes out a lot of guys that he gets to 2 strikes. Snell this past year with the Padres posted a 2.25 earned run average, which led the National League. He was second in the league with 234 strikeouts, and opponents hit just 181 against him. He also walked a bunch of guys and never pitches longer than 6 innings because his pitch counts are always so high. But it was difficult to argue that Blake Snell would not be the National League Cy Young winner. Garrett Cole's going to win the American League Cy Young later on tonight.
Yeah, so the Baseball Reference Twitter account, they posted a side-by-side graphic of the stats this year for the finalists for the American League Cy Young. Kevin Gausman, ya boy.
Yes.
Garrett Cole, Sonny Gray. And they listed, and I got to count it up here, 11 stats categories and what their numbers were for each one and who led in each category. Sonny Gray led in 0 of them. Kevin Gausman led 2. Garrett Cole led the other 9. Games started, innings pitched, record, ERA plus, walks, and walk percentage. Gausman had number of strikeouts and strikeout percentage. Garrett Cole also had the best ERA in the American League. His wins above replacement, more than 2 wins better than second place among these finalists. He was at 7.4. Gray was at 5.3. This, I don't know about unanimous, but it almost feels like it should be unanimous.
Cole is going to remove himself from a really interesting list of pitchers who have been multiple-time runners-up for the Cy Young, but not actually won one. This will be his first career Cy Young that he receives later tonight. Dan Quisenberry, by the way, Royal Great, one of those. I think it's 7. Tyler Kepner had this for the Athletic. I think there were, including Cole, 7 pitchers who'd been multiple runners-up, but never won a Cy Young. Cole's going to remove himself from that list later on. Blake Snell adds himself to a list that includes Max Scherzer, Roy Halladay, Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, and Gaylord Perry. Do you know what that list is? That's pitchers.
Yankees?
That's pitchers to win the Cy Young in both leagues.
Oh, okay.
So Snell won the Cy Young in, I believe it was 2019.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking Cole, not Snell. Yeah. My bad.
Now you're all good. Yeah, Snell won a Cy Young with Tampa Bay and now has won one with San Diego. So yeah, that's a pit list that is 7 pitchers long, and 4 of them are already in the Hall of Fame, and Max Scherzer will be, and Roger Clemens should be, and Blake Snell probably won't be. And that's kind of wild.
What do you think it would take for Snell to get there?
A lot more seasons just like this one.
Okay.
like
8 years in the majors, led the AL in ERA, led all of baseball this year in ERA, 2 Cy Youngs, 1 All-Star game. That's kind of wild.
Yeah, wasn't an All-Star this year.
And honestly, you look at I'm just looking at his baseball
2018
reference.
Cy Young, by the way. I want to correct myself.
I'm just looking at the standard numbers on his baseball reference page. Outside of the 2 Cy Youngs, it's a pretty unremarkable career. Like, he's been good, but like good with 2 great seasons.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yeah. It is a fascinating career. Only 71 wins, and he's already 30 years old. Like, it's probably, he turns 31 here in just a few days, a couple of weeks. So he'll be very highly sought after in the free agent market. But how many more like great years does Blake Snell have in him? Probably needs about 2 or 3 to even have a conversation about his Hall of Fame bona fides by the time he's done.
Who are you putting in the Hall of Fame first, Brett Saberhagen or Blake Snell?
Man, I'd probably put Sabes. I mean, Sabes won Game 7 of the World Series as a 21-year-old. Like, he's got, I know that's not like postseason performance is not the be-all, end-all here, but you think about postseason moments, like Saberhagen give you one of those.
Yeah.
Snell's biggest postseason moment was getting yanked from a game.
And he made 3 All-Star games. He honestly had a very similar career. Like,
yeah.
His 2 Cy Young years were incredible.
You look at Saberhagen's career, and I know Royals fans know this, but like odd year Saberhagen, unbelievable. Even year Saberhagen, very iffy.
I mean, that's been the Royals forever. Wasn't that Hosmer too? One was terrible, one was great.
Hosmer was an every other year guy for sure. But yeah, Saberhagen especially was like odd years, outrageously good. Even years, just kind of a guy.
Man, that's funny.
For a good chunk of his career. Also, that's Colorado Rocky great, Brett Saberhagen to you.
That's true. It is. That does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Coming up next, we talked a little Champions Classic earlier. What's Dan's take on KU's win from last night? That's up next on 580 Sports Talk. On 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Full day on the show coming up tomorrow. We'll talk to Paul Meyerberg about the Sunflower Showdown and everything else going on around the Big 12. We'll get his thoughts on the tiebreaker bylaws. We'll talk to Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs. Chiefs back in action coming up on Monday next week, or this weekend, I suppose you could say, against the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll talk to Rick Peterson as we get ready for sub-state football. And, of course, a reminder, if you didn't already know, our Lewis Toyota High School Game of the Week is going to take us back to Bowen Glaze Stadium on Friday night as the Washburn Rural Junior Blues take on the Derby Panthers. What a game that should be. We will be on for that broadcast immediately following K-State basketball. The Cats are scheduled for a 5 o'clock start. We will be on as soon as that game is over, so it might bleed into the first quarter, sometime in the first half a little bit, but we'll join you from Bowen Glaze Stadium Friday night as soon as the Cats are done in the Bahamas. The Kansas Jayhawks, they were in action last night. They beat Kentucky 89-84. One final point I wanted to bring up that we didn't mention earlier. KU is thin right now. We do know that for sure. Hunter Dickinson was awesome. McCullough had a triple-double. DeJuan Harris was awesome. KJ Adams, until he fouled out of the game, I thought was great, especially in the second half. He was great. I sound like Self. Jamari McDowell, who was the lowest ranked member of this year's recruiting class, which suddenly got smaller and smaller as guys left and transferred out and whatnot. Marcus Adams and Chris Johnson both leaving. And it was kind of known this year that he wasn't going to redshirt, especially with how thin KU is. But, like, hey, he's not going to play a whole lot. He'll play against he'll play in garbage time. He'll play against the North Carolina Centrals and the Manhattans of the world, but not going to be asked to do a whole lot. And then he played the last 3.5 minutes of a game against Kentucky in one of the biggest non-con games of the year and hit the 2 clinching free throws.
Yeah, he sure did. He also ended up with the ball on KU's final, like, meaningful offensive half-court possession.
Yeah.
And, like, they could have been holding his family at gunpoint courtside, and he wouldn't have shot the basketball. Like, that was the most obvious case of, somebody come get this from me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to shoot it. I saw what just happened to Elmarco Jackson. That's why I'm here.
Mom, come get me. I'm scared. That's kind of what it felt like.
It's that I think you should leave meme. I don't know what any of this is, and I'm scared.
And honestly, look, this might not be how Bill Self views it. I would rather he get really scared and give the ball to someone else than screw up. I would much rather have that.
Well, because here's the thing that did happen when McDowell was on the floor. Number one, KU, I think, was +9 in those 4 minutes. A fact that Self was extremely ready to point out after the game, which stood in stark contrast to Nick Timberlake's, -20?
Yeah, -1 billion, it might as well have been.
Last time I was that disappointed at Timberlake, it was after I read Britney Spears' memoir. Anyhow. The thing about McDowell that he did while he was out there was he stuck to his man, and he didn't make any, like, maybe he helped off a little bit too much on one particular possession where they got a fairly clean look at a corner 3 over him. But for the most part, he was where he was supposed to be. And you know, and I know that Bill Self's going to trust the guys who can be where they're supposed to be. And that's a valuable trait. And McDowell showed that he could be trustworthy in that way. And that may earn him some more playing time as we go along here, because Timberlake, man, I don't know. I think you almost need to get him a shot right away.
Yes.
To figure out, like, is he going to be of any use to us tonight?
Well, I mentioned it earlier that he went from 5 years, really 4, he got hurt one of those years, but 5 years at Towson as the guy. It was, when we get on offense, get the ball to Timberlake and just shoot. And he was great at it. He shot 41% from 3, I believe it was. But it's a big change going from who you're playing in the Colonial and having that role to suddenly needing to be the instant offense microwave guy off the bench and having a very specific role. And also, Nick, you got to play defense now. And you can't get away with just being a chucker if you're playing for Bill Self.
Yeah.
You got to play some defense.
And look,
he looks lost.
Yeah, and that's a tough matchup. Like, Kentucky, there were people pointing out at halftime of the game, Kansas is out-athleted by Kentucky. Well, duh. Everybody is out-athleted by Kentucky at all times. That's the whole thing about playing a John Calipari program, is they're going to out-athlete you. It's a lot of times those athletes aren't great at basketball, or they're not real well coached. And that has been why Kentucky has taken a step back. It's not because they have less athleticism than they've ever had. Like, they've always got like athletic dudes.
But
Like,
do they have basketball players?
yes. Do they play good basketball? And I will say this for Kentucky. They have been a chore to watch the last 3 or 4 years. I actually kind of want to watch more of them.
I believe I saw that was the most threes they've ever taken under Cal.
Like, Rob Dillingham is fun. Reed Shepherd looks like he could be a really good player for them.
Unless you only watched the last possession.
Wagner didn't make anything, but you can see how quick he is off the dribble. Antonio Reeves shot them out of that game late, but like every fun team needs the irrational confidence guy, and clearly that's Antonio Reeves. And they're gonna be nice where those shots fall too, and they'll be really fun to watch. Like, that's a Kentucky team. If they play like that, they'll make a deeper tournament run than they have in years. Like, I really think they will. I think they've got that in them. They feel like Kentucky.
Yeah.
They don't feel boring. They don't feel stale. They don't feel like they're wasting guys.
Yeah.
That was a good Kentucky team. That was, and a potentially a fun one. That makes, I think, the win for Kansas look even better in retrospect. Because, they were out-athleted. And those guys made shots. And KU just chipped away. It was their composure that was the most impressive thing to me. They were clearly the veteran team. And it's just a hallmark of great KU teams. You think about the rally they made in the second half of the national championship game 2 years ago. Any number of great comeback wins or hard wins that Bill Self teams have had over the years. It's just staying the course. Don't panic. Don't get in a 3-point shooting contest where the other team gets hot for 2 minutes. Stay the course. Get your easy baskets and just chip away. And that's what they did in the second half. That's what was most impressive to me. You could tell that the veteran nature of this team is going to really see them through a lot of nights where they might not have as much talent man for man, or they might not be as athletic man to man, but they know where to get 2 points. And they feel confident that on any given possession, they can go get 2 somehow, some way. So they'll wait for you to cool down from 3, or they'll wait for you to make a mistake. And they're going to just go and build their bridge to the comeback 1 2-point basket at a time. And that's what they did against Kentucky.
And you could see when they mounted that comeback and went on that 15-2 run, they can hit you like an avalanche. It's a little bit like last year when, we saw it. We saw it numerous times that when that starting core 5 got rolling, they could do almost whatever they wanted. The problem that came down at the end was they had absolutely no depth, and they lost their head coach in the NCAA tournament against a well-coached Arkansas team. That was a nightmare matchup, and they lost by 1 possession.
Yeah.
Like, tough break sometimes. But this team, I think, has the potential to be even better in that regard, because if you get something from the 2 spot, whether it's El Marco, Furphy, or Timberlake at some point, if you get anything positive from them, you've got maybe the best center in America. You've got Kevin McCullough, who's as good of an all-around player plus defender as anyone, an elite point guard, and then KJ Adams, who there's been so much debate among KU fans, like, what is KJ Adams? Because he's not a real wing, because good God, I've never seen a worse shooting stroke in my life.
He shot that 1 3-pointer, and I hope that's the last 3-pointer I ever got to watch him shoot.
And he took a long 2 a little bit later. And, like, I love KJ Adams, so it's more like, oh, bless your heart,
like,
KJ.
I don't mind the elbow jumper. If he ever takes a 3-pointer again, Bill Self should escort him off the floor. A hand around shoulder, like, kindly, but just walk him to the bench.
Say,
son,
get the heck out of here.
Son, come have a seat next to me. That's not what we do here.
No. Do you remember, was it McCormick's freshman year? I think it was McCormick's freshman year. Do you remember his pull-up jumper against Kentucky at the Champions Classic? It's one of the funniest videos on KU Twitter that still gets circulated. Devon Dotson sprinting the floor, gets just inside the arc, little jump pass to McCormick, who's trailing him, pulls up from about 17 feet and throws up the biggest brick you've ever seen.
I think I do remember
It's hysterically bad. That's almost what it felt like watching KJ, except there was no defender for 20 feet. Like, yeah, okay. Just rebound.
No, KJ Adams is like the point I think you're driving at.
Yeah,
here. He's a totally unique player. He's just KJ Adams. It's the KJ Adams role.
He is jacked, like freakishly ripped.
Very strong.
And the fact that he doesn't have a role, it's just like, hey, KJ, we kind of need you to do everything. Like, he's got to play good defense, and he does. He's got to be good near the basket offensively, and he is. You can match him up with a bunch of different guys. He's still so good at that short role that honestly, the best role for him, and this is bizarre when you're talking about he's playing next to someone who's a legit 7-2, is playing Dickinson at the 4 and KJ at the 5. Because that's how you get the best matchups.
Yeah, when they high posted Dickinson, they got a lot of easy baskets.
Yep.
And that's, we think about Bill Self the early years, and it's the two big lineup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the ways he got easy hoops for like the Morris twins. He's going to be able to dig into that old bag of tricks and get a lot of easy baskets. And that's the thing about this KU team. We talked about it when we talked NBA playoffs, the extent that we did last year. We talked about the Denver Nuggets. We talked about like making the math work against the Nuggets because the Nuggets are so efficient as an offensive team that if you're not as efficient as them, particularly from inside the arc, you better make a ton of threes if you're going to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this Kansas team is going to have some of that where they're just going to be super efficient. Now, they don't have like Nikola Jokic kind of players, but they're going to get the kinds of quality looks around the rim that are just going to make them a really high percentage offensive team. So if you're going to beat them, you better be that efficient on the interior, which is not easy to be because not every team has a Hunter Dickinson, or you better shoot the bejesus out of it from 3. And Kentucky did, and it didn't matter.
Didn't matter. Really good win for KU. They're next in action coming up next Monday. Feast week, Maui Invitational. It'll be in Honolulu, but still looking forward to that coming up next week. We have to get to a break. On the other side of this timeout, if you put ice cream on a cheeseburger, should you go to jail? We'll discuss next on 580 Sports Talk. Jamison Williams is a wide receiver for the Detroit Lions, and it's been a disappointing year for him since returning from his gambling suspension, and it's only getting worse. So he was at McDonald's recently. The pretty benign, okay, whatever. Dude went to McDonald's. And he shared his trip to McDonald's on his Instagram story. Big Jamo, or JMO, is the Instagram handle.
Big SG JMO.
SG JMO, excuse me. And he Had a double cheeseburger. Okay.
Classic order.
Classic.
Sometimes you just can't beat a McDonald's cheeseburger. One of life's simplest pleasures. No pickle on mine, please and thank you.
He seems to have also gotten a frozen lemonade to drink, as well as a McFlurry. That's a classic McDonald's order.
2 frozen beverages is a little wild, but you know what? Hey, do you? You're an NFL player. I'm sure you'll synthesize that nutrition into health somehow. That doesn't make any sense. Continue.
So he separated the top bun, which had the condiments and the pickles on it, from the meat and the cheese on the bottom bun. And he thought, oh, maybe there's fries off camera, and he's going to throw fries on there. I don't like that move personally, but I know plenty of people do it. Nope. He took that big, thick McFlurry spoon, a big dollop of Oreo ice cream, and he plopped it down right in the middle of the top patty.
This, to me, is more suspension worthy from the NFL than the gambling thing.
We have comments from Twitter. One person writes, I love J-Mo, but this should be illegal. Someone said, this is why he don't get fantasy points. And then our pal Field Yates of ESPN said, I still have love for J-Mo, but a McFlurry on a burger is unhinged.
Unhinged is like, how do you discover that's like, it's one thing to dip your fries in the Frosty or the chocolate shake. Like I've seen that. I think it's a little weird, but okay.
Yeah.
You've got the salty and then you've got the sweet. Like I understand like where that flavor profile is appealing to some people.
Uh-huh.
This full-on ice cream on a hamburger, man. What the hell are you doing?
With ketchup, mustard, and pickle.
Pickle!
I like pickle, and I'm not putting a pickle near this.
Like, think of all of the flavors of a cheeseburger, and then think about adding to that smushed Oreo ice cream.
Fans on YouTube says, not only should you go to jail for doing that, it should negatively affect your credit score.
Should move him down the depth chart.
Yeah, for real.
Like, I bet if Nick Saban knew he did this, he wouldn't have recruited him to Alabama.
Yeah, Josh Reynolds, you are now wide receiver 2 in Detroit.
That is sick, man. That's
like, of all the gross things you can do at a fast food restaurant, and I'm a big secret menu fan, okay? Like, I like finding out you can do weird stuff. I like ordering stuff that many think are gross. This is beyond the pale, though. There's no coming back from this if you're Jameson Williams. You can find a picture of this, by the way. New York Post has a screenshot of it. This is deranged. So sick.
No, don't care for this at all.
Another user commented, up until this point, I've enjoyed his hard work getting back into the fold. With that said, trade him now. I think that's put perfectly. We got to get to one final break. Final words coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got a couple quick more comments here from Mark on YouTube. Says, no get out of jail free card for anyone who puts the McFlurry on the McDonald's burger.
Yeah, that's a big time violation.
Got to agree with that. All right, time for the final word. Dan, you're up first.
Maybe the Big 12 did the right thing in their clarification of their three-way tiebreaker rule, in the sense that Oklahoma State, should they end up in a three-way tiebreaker with Oklahoma and Kansas State, will have earned the right to play for a Big 12 championship. You can do the right thing, but you still do it the wrong way. And the Big 12 has absolutely done this the wrong way by refusing to admit wrongdoing and saying, actually, no, you read it wrong. I didn't read it wrong. Don't insult my reading comprehension, Brett Yormark. I think Yormark's done a great job at the helm of the Big 12. This is a major misstep the way they've handled this.
Final word for me today. Last night was a really good night for the Kansas Jayhawks. A lot of things that still need to be worked on, have to clean some things up, and have to find someone at the 2 spot who can score and defend consistently. But when you've got a top 4 of Kevin McCullough, DeJuan Harris, Hunter Dickinson, and KJ Adams, that's darn near as good as anyone in the country when you factor in skill, size, and experience. KU is going to win a lot of games this year. And as long as someone, hopefully a couple someones from that Furphy, Timberlake, and Jackson group figure it out eventually once we get to the Big 12 season, KU is going to be just fine and is going to be contending for a Final Four again this year. Full show coming up tomorrow from 2 until 6. Big 12 breakdown, high school whip around. We'll chat with Mitch Holtis. All that and much more coming up tomorrow again from 2 until 6. But until then, for Jake LeBon, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. This has been 580 Sports Talk.